Welcome to the Four Horsemen. This week, we are diving into the FGC and specifically the Smash community. And joining us is investigative video reporter. What term do you prefer, technical?
I'm just a YouTuber, bro. it gives me more plausible deniability.
Okay.
Just go with that.
That's the shit.
He does long-form investigative work of a lot of the issues that have happened within the FGC and Smash more specifically. And today we're going to be talking about something that probably a lot of you guys have seen on social media, because sometimes the larger scandals do in fact break free of their Smash containment. And we're also going to be talking about a bunch of other issues that have happened historically in the Smash community. So if you're not familiar with it, the Smash community, I would say, has been one of the more scandalous, if not the most scandalous and lawless parts. And I'm going to say the dirty word for the FGC, esports. I consider them esports. I noticed that FGC people, when it's convenient for them to be esports, they like to be called esports. When it's inconvenient, they refuse to be called esports whatsoever. This is an esports show. Is it competitive video games that has prize pools in a professional circuit? It sure is. So I consider it esports.
Really? I didn't know. I know that there's sometimes a problem with the distinction between Smash and FGC, but even the FGC doesn't like to be called esports.
Yep.
Sometimes.
That's what he says. Normally they say they don't, unless, there's awards being given out, or let's say the Esports World Cup has life-changing money, then magically they're esports all day long, mate.
Yeah, but the bottom line is the FGC and the Smash community, I mean, they're all over the fucking road when it comes to, like, their own identity, which, there's probably a joke in there, but I'll let technicals do it. But it's like they're fucking...
How many genres are there, Richard? Yeah,
well, for starters, that's what I mean. You've got... How many games are involved?
How
many games are involved in the FGC? And then you want to have a consistent scene in there, right? Like, and that's impossible. I mean, that would be like trying to unify all the FPS games, right? It just wouldn't. It just wouldn't work, right? It wouldn't make sense. They're all different in some way. So you have that problem initially. Then you have Smash, which is kind of like, I can't remember which way around it was historically, whether Smash didn't want to be part of the FGC or the FGC rejected Smash. But that's a schism. There's a schism within Smash based on which version of Smash you play. So you have that as well. And then on top of everything else, yes, they are competitive video games, but they're also fucking stupid. They reject the premise of esports because they call that, quote, head ass, end quote, and think that it's corporate and bollocks, right? So they don't want that, right? But then it's like you say, whenever there's the money or the sponsorship or the accolades or whatever it might be, then they want to be recognized as esports. It's like, I remember them complaining about the esports awards not having enough FGC representation. It shouldn't have any. You make your own. Fuck off. You've made it abundantly clear, I don't want to see SonicFox on stage again. He's a guy that can't be around a microphone. It's ridiculous.
And SonicFox is he's still planning to go to Saudi Arabia. Well, I don't think he's planning to go to Saudi Arabia.
No,
he said he wouldn't go there, but he'll still do Evo. Yeah.
He won't go to Saudi Arabia itself because Saudi Arabia bad, but he will.
He didn't mention during the original drama when he was sort of being a hero. He just said that like quietly later on, I noticed.
But he will go to Evo because he doesn't want to erase his own legacy and take a check signed by him.
He still has a dream.
Yeah, sure. Well, all those women that are locked up right now in Saudi, they had a dream too. All those gay people that were killed, they had a dream.
SonicFox doesn't care about it.
No. That's the reality.
I do love the way he presented that, because like you say, he made it a dream, so it made it sound virtuous. But if you actually listen to what he was saying, I'm going to be incredibly selfish right now, and only what I care about matters, because that's my dream, basically. And actually, you know what? Unfortunately, you weren't in my dream, so I'm going to do it anyway.
So I saw Richard post about it, and that's what got me talking about it, because I was like, yeah, dude, if you are against the Saudis, like, because you think what they're doing is wrong, you'd protest the event, not take a paycheck and then get censored later.
He'd be one of the most effective people to protest, surely, as well.
He really had a unique opportunity. Because
he could have organized something massive, like absolutely massive outside of Evo.
Agreed.
Totally.
All right. We can start with the Saudi stuff briefly. I mean, we'll get technical takes on it because our entire last episode, if you guys didn't know, well, not our entire episode, part of our last episode was about the SonicFox Saudi stuff. And if you guys missed it, basically, Evo is now owned by the Saudi Arabian government. And I think part of the issue here, I think people will think, oh, well, isn't ESL owned by the Saudi government? And they're running all the Counter-Strike tournaments outside of Saudi Arabia. And personally, I don't really have a big issue with that because it's not being used for sports washing outside of Saudi Arabia. And my main concern, like, we cannot stop the Saudi Arabian government from doing the following things, like owning pieces. They own the largest individual stake of Nintendo, for example. They own.
Yeah, that was a shock to me.
they own basically all of Capcom. If you guys didn't know, or not all, what it's SNK. Sorry.
Really, these companies were already existentially evil, so nothing changed.
Right.
Yeah.
And they own part of Disney. They own part of Uber. Like, basically, the investment fund has touched everybody's lives, especially in the gaming world, in ways that it is impossible to get away from, and it's not realistic. But I care less about that than the fact that they use these games and our industry very specifically to sports wash, right? That's my personal problem with it. If they want to spend their money to host Evo in Vegas and give people money, then, for me, that's a better solution. Now, I still don't like that they're advertising Qiddiya and trying to do their tourist stuff, but it's not explicitly sports washing in the way that the Esports World Cup is, where they want people to fly there and be like, oh, I had such a great time. And also, as we discussed on our last show, say things like, I'm gay, and then the Saudis like, oh, we're totally cool with that. Please ignore our human rights abuses against women and all these other minority groups within our country, right?
Technically they do, as far as I know, like ban you in the Twitch chat of like ESL if you say anything vaguely related to any of this stuff, by the way. But to be fair, that's not really relevant to the stream, but even so, they do that, don't you?
Sure.
Richard, didn't you do a write-up on that as well? Because
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I read that where there were some issues with the event as well.
Yeah, so I mean, what I did, I mean, I've written a lot about the Esports World Cup, but one of the interesting parts about it was that I did a bit of a troll. I'm not a journalist anymore. I think I'm just a shit poster now. I don't know. But I did this like thing where it was like I wanted to make Falcons the honorary team of the LGBT. And so, because in the Let's Go Bird team, so
they get disqualified.
Well, no. So what was happening was, everyone was spamming, the trans flag, the rainbow flag, LGBT pro statements when Falcons were playing. It got so bad that ESL were banning people. That didn't stop it. And then what they had to do was they had to do this DHL drop prize giveaway whenever Falcons played. So the chat would just be, exclamation point.
Signalized it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, think about that for a second, Monty. As you say there, in theory, we're supposed to believe as long as you don't go to Riyadh and you don't go to Saudi Arabia, you're not really part of the sports washing. Think about that. You're an ESL employee, probably lived in Germany at some point in time. You were loving all those pride marches every time we did the ESL One Cologne. You were loving talking about how open you are in the West. You're now, let's see, what's that checks notes? Banning people who say positive things about the LGBTQ in a text chat on the basis of who your sinister owners are. So that's you. That's who you are now. That wasn't Faisal pressing the button. You pressed the button, guy.
Yeah, you pressed the button.
You
Yeah,
that mates. That's you.
And what's really funny about
following orders, of course. Don't worry. Following orders.
What's really funny about all of that is that their justification for it is they say, "Well, listen, this is a political free zone. We don't talk about politics.
Politics free. Yeah. Well, it seems like they just threw more money at it to make it go away. So that's the thing. It's like how much money could they throw at SonicFox to make him not go up there and wave a trans flag? Is my question.
That might actually have been a question asked in a Mad Men style focus group before Evo was bought. For real,
SonicFox. But without the trans flag.
Yeah.
SonicFox now. Forbes 40 under 40. Like, whoa, how'd that happen?
Yeah, I mean, listen, definitely don't rule that out. It's kind of interesting as well because, as I was saying to the guys, like this Saudi thing, I've only seen one mainstream media outlet talk about it. That was Eurogamer.
Yeah. Respect to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, when you know that the mainstream games press have like lionized and fawned over SonicFox and his stance on this issue. It's very strange that no one picked up.
You think, Richard,
what he said about, Saudi.
We know this over the last 10 years. You think how many articles were written in the mainstream gaming press about how sexist gaming is and racist and homophobic. Magically, not a word to be said about the Saudis. They just can't find their way to any information. So there's not a relevant story there.
I successfully earned a retraction from one publication, if you guys remember, because they said I had no place in esports because I was a very divisive person and had a quote, shadowy violent past or something like this, right? And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, the lawyer just took one look at that and it's like, even in the UK, we'll smoke you for defamation on that one. So they even they didn't just issue an apology and a retraction. They even offered to pay me to write an article about my perspective, which I said,
crazy.
Definitely like that publication to keep the same energy about aforementioned Saudis in that case, you know. Yep.
I agree with what Monty was saying about how if they're just like infusing money to like already existing entities like Evo in Las Vegas, that's cool. But like the whole World Cup thing, where it seems like a facade to just kind of promote Saudi Arabia.
It is.
And look, technicals. I'm going to blackpill you on this issue because we've talked about this.
I'm ahead of you, buddy.
We've talked about this, and it's like with the Smash community or the FGC, I don't think that they understand what's going to happen to Evo, because like in isolation this is fine. Now I would also say that if your identity as a part of the LGBTQ community, as seems very common in the FGC, you probably shouldn't even go to Evo in Vegas, and you probably should boycott that to some degree. Like we said, you certainly have the power to do that. SonicFox could absolutely show up at Evo and stage a protest. He could absolutely, on his social media, which he still has not done, say things like, I condemn the Saudis' treatment of my community. What is so hard to say about that? Won't say anything. I mean, and that's all you need to know. But
it seems like a lot of them are
akin, by the way, to former statements he has made comparable to that about Republicans, for example. He certainly has not shied away from that. So I would think it would even be on brand for him to do that, Monty.
Yeah, they're like single issue voters. If they support trans rights, like a lot of them, it's like the trans rights LGBTQ thing. You need to vote with your wallet along with like your actual vote. But it's the question of moral consumption, which is why I'm kind of split on it. Because once you start looking at the things that you consume on a day-to-day basis and start asking, is this a moral purchase? Is this align with all of my values? Would I, support the production line for this? It gets a little complicated, and you're going to eventually start working on your own farm out in the countryside. So
that's the thing. I agree with your technicals, but here's the problem. If you were in the street and you just saw a dog dying in front of you, you wouldn't go, I better save it or wait. I'm not going to save every dog in the town. In fact, in China, they're killing dogs right now. So you know what? Actually, I need to really think, am I going to commit my entire... No, you just save the one dog. Right. You know what I mean? And especially also, if it's right in front of you and it's what you really care about. And your whole thing is, I want to save dogs. So I know what you mean. I do agree with the bigger philosophical point. But I also think it's outrageous when people essentially have the lowest hanging fruit ever. Yeah. And then they go, well, at the end of the day, what change can any of us make?
This whole thing is like political activism in gaming. So like for him, you'd expect him to actually be an activist and protest. I've never seen this. Has he ever been to a protest? Like he could easily organize his own. I don't know.
And as I alluded to, if anything, what he doesn't seem to realize is his silence on this matter undercuts his past statements. Now his statements about the Republicans sound like luxury beliefs he knew he never had any possible consequences from or wouldn't in any way harm him. Also, quickly, I'll just throw this out there. People, for some reason, are circling around that classic stupid take that they always do on this topic, Monty, which goes, but in a way, like almost like some Robin Hood shit, like, but it's genius because then someone in the LGBT community is taking the Saudis' money. That logic would make sense to work on purpose with the worst people in the entire world.
But they're taking Epstein's money. You don't get it. So he has less. Epstein has less.
Here's what I don't get. That logic would literally justify going to Russia and working with the Russian state so you can drain their money away. It's like when people said, if you remember, Richard, don't worry, how can the Saudi Sportswashing be bad? They're losing money. You are just a dickhead of levels that are ununbelievable. Like the fact that you think that's a point, you haven't thought it through. You haven't thought the end.
And write off for them. Like, drop a bucket.
So, I mean, look, I'll ask you technicals just before we go on, Monty, because we can get through this topic pretty quickly. But I do want to ask how many in the FGC and Smash community, how are they reconciling it all? Because I mean, like in Counter-Strike, it's like it kind of, I don't know. I guess we were all just pieces of shit anyway. We like all of our money's been dirty permanently, and not a lot of people.
You got the gambling scandals.
Yeah, no one really morally grandstanded about any world shit. Like you cannot find a player that's ever like spoken out for like human rights or whatever. You know what I mean?
As far as like the FGC with like Capcom and stuff, they have their the Capcom Pro Tour where they have injections from the actual company that owns the game, so they have plenty of money. But in Smash, you've almost seen them destroying themselves from the inside out because of all the moralizing. They destroyed Panda Global with boycotts.
Yeah,
now Luminosity it just got sold off to Vertical Studios.
Yes, correct.
So, and there's been no posts after MK Leo, who's a Luminosity player, he just won a major, no posts about it from Luminosity. So the assumption is that they're getting dropped. They have all these sponsorships dropping. Coinbox is not really a thing anymore, which was Coinbase sponsoring Hungrybox. And now one of the only things that they have is Nouns, which is also a crypto sponsorship. So I'm pretty sure most of these people are opposed to crypto in general. They view it as like another evil that they have to combat, but it's the only place that's funding them. So I don't understand how they're like, at the same time, we have no money, but also, fuck the Saudis and fuck crypto.
But I mean, that is the general sentiment then. Smash are kind of holding out, would you say?
They're just broke. They're just broke. So a lot of them are going to yield. They yield to enough money. Once they see it, they're like, all right, we have to take it. We have nothing.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, I mean, that's been the funny thing is like, there's so much money in like Dota and Counter-Strike by comparison, and they all made the same excuse as well. They all said, like
they were like, I'm only on 50k a month. I need that extra money, Richard.
I'm looking into a story at the moment that involves, it's a relatively small gambling company sponsoring someone, and it's a multi-million-dollar deal. So for context, and they sponsor exactly one team. So it's like if one team of 5 and you've got a multi-million, $1 million to cover it, and you can't, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck we're doing in esports anymore, guys.
It's a laundering operation. Send it to CoffeeZilla.
Yeah, well, listen.
Up the chain.
He touched, put it this way, CoffeeZilla has gone after like criminal enterprises. He delicately touched the Counter-Strike skins gambling economy. Recoiled in horror, and like he was meant to interview me for it. We were gonna do like a.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was gonna point him out on a few things because I mean, like I thought he did a very good video as a like explainer, but I don't think he's coming back to the topic. I think
those people are insane, dude. There's the guy that would take out flyers and just like dox people and put hits out on people in their town. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, there's been some wild shit over there, and I think if it's too hot for CoffeeZilla, that should tell you everything.
Well, now Coffee's going after like Ghislaine Maxwell and fucking Donald Trump.
The joke being that was less dangerous to him. He was like, you know what?
I know. Yeah,
exactly. That one you might just get politically killed.
Listen. Yeah, exactly. That skins gambling's a bit hot now. Let's go after the Epstein files. Let's get that.
I always worry for Coffee.
I'm going to put that on the shelf while I work on this Hillary Clinton video. This CS gambling, that's a little bit too dangerous for me.
The last thing I want to say about the Saudi stuff is just like the thing that people don't realize, and we discussed on the last episode, is that by purchasing Evo, when all roads lead to the Esports World Cup, the FGC doesn't understand that the goal is going to be to lower the prestige of Evo at the expense of raising the prestige of the Esports World Cup. They don't.
No doubt, immediately the winner of Evo will automatically get an EWC spot or something like that. It'll be like that.
But they may just like carve it out and like turn it into a Riyadh event where it's like Evo Riyadh is bigger than Evo Las Vegas in terms of prize pool. Like people don't understand. It's not going to stay the same. The purpose is to sports wash. So this is just step one. And while we said this, I don't particularly have that big of an issue with in the same way that I don't with the rest of the circuit for Counter-Strike. It is merely phase one of this plan. So, hey guys, the Four Horsemen is sponsored by Prize Picks. As you guys know, there's a brand new season of football here in America, so that's a fun way to play along with some daily fantasy. But there's also a lot of esports that are available over on Prize Picks. You can go ahead and play in CS2. You can play in League of Legends. You can play in Valorant, especially now that VCT Champs has going on. And how it works is you pick 2 or more players. There's a stat in the app, and you pick if they're going to get more or less than the stat that is shown. So in League of Legends, this could be like kills or assists. These are the kind of things that you guys are going to be selecting. So if you're feeling like you have some insight into the games that are coming up, it's a great time to go head on over to Prize Picks. It is super easy. And for example, in the NFL this week, there is a player, Patrick Mahomes, versus the New York Giants, and all you have to do is pick more than 0.5 passing yards. Pretty sure Mahomes is going to have more than half a passing yard. And the other one I would take a look at is James Cook and his rushing stats. He's been doing really well recently, having a breakout season as a running back. I'm going to go ahead and take him more than 68.5 rushing yards, the Bills versus the Miami Dolphins. He's been having a hell of a performance, so those two combined will give you some pretty nice returns if you are making those selections. You guys can download the Prize Picks app today and use code HORSEMEN, plural, MEN, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HORSEMEN to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. I do want to start talking about the Smash scene now, though, and get technicals involved, because we haven't touched the Smash scene, but the Smash scene has been maybe the worst scene in esports in terms of scandals.
I hated it by default because I was there in the early days of esports when that fucking Smash documentary came out. And all of the owners of all of the orgs were going, wow, that's the best documentary I've seen. I want to get involved in Smash. And suddenly everyone had to have a Smash player. And I was like, nah, I'm a hipster. Fuck this shit. So I was against it from the start, dude. From the
real
moment.
hater, OG hater.
So,
took my crown.
You know, I won't.
It's crazy.
Just Smash is a game. Like I know that you guys may not have grown up playing it in the UK, but it is hard to state if you're not American how omnipresent this game was in America.
Sure,
I mean, I grew up playing the 64 and the GameCube version, Smash Melee.
I played it back in the day, it was a good
You ever
game.
went 10 years ago when the LCS was popping off to any like after party type thing where players arranged with everyone would be playing that the whole time they were drinking? That was like they didn't even play League was the joke. They just played that game in the living room. Everyone. It was ubiquitous.
It's hard to beat the recognizable IPs. Like everyone grew up with like Kirby, Mario, Donkey Kong.
Links in there.
Yeah, and Melee is a great game. It has a very high skill ceiling. I had friends when I was in high school and college who were competing on the circuit.
You look like a Kirby main. Don't even know what that means.
No,
dude, that's what a lot of casuals play Kirby. A lot of casuals play Kirby.
There you go, Monty, King of Kirby.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Just lying about me now.
I knew that was an insult. Like I just felt it.
Anyway, but what it resulted from all of this, especially in America, kind of grassroots adoption, because I think everybody who is like a millennial has Smash experience, like everybody who's a gamer. This was the party game. It was the game we played as teenagers. It was, like for me, the competitive games that I played most as a teenager were Warcraft 3, which I became involved in the professional scene, Halo, and Smash. Like those were the three.
What you're getting at here, Monty, is this, and I can tell you this does travel abroad, is before that, if you asked me about fighting games, I just always assumed the only one that mattered was Street Fighter, because Street Fighter was the one with the law and all the shit with Japan and Daigo and all that stuff, and in fact, early Evo, etc. But the difference is that was always, even within esports, incredibly niche, just like certain very rare, like people who play Age of Empires 2 or whatever. The difference is Smash Melee, not only in the esports spaces, like that's why, as you say, to some people, they don't know the difference between Smash and FGC in general anyway. In fact, some people think that's all it is. But also, it had a way bigger cultural impact. Like casuals have played that game in a way like you'd have to go back to the original Street Fighter to have that. Like no modern day person's playing like the Street Fighter,
the original Mortal Kombat. You know what I mean?
You have to go way back. But that was like the 2010s version of it, or 2000s version. Yeah, great.
Yeah, at one point it was the highest selling fighting game like in the world, hands down.
Right.
I think it's been overtaken by now, but
and for most part, that's even more impressive because probably most of the sales were done in America. But
it has that thing a bit like Counter-Strike, where in Counter-Strike, even though they brought out Source, actually the community stayed with 1.6. It was the same with Smash, obviously. People stayed with the classic one and had all the fucking TVs and stuff, even though they brought out other games in the series. And that's why Richard said there's actually even a divide, a bifurcation, right?
With like the old ones like Brawl, Smash 4, they all instantly die when the new one comes out. But the thing with Melee is it's always been the same. It's either grows a little bit, but it's slowly the numbers have been going down.
Well, and a lot of that is because people like me, I never really played any of the follow-ups after Melee to Smash, but I can still dive into a Smash Melee stream and watch and appreciate the game because I have memories of playing that game. And, I can do that with, there's obviously a lot of characters that cross over, but the cast is so much bigger. For example, in the subsequent versions like Smash Wii, Smash Brawl, Smash 4. So like all of this has evolved over time, and Melee is still considered the like highest skill version of the game because Nintendo did do a bunch of dumb shit because like they actually
the usual like water it down that they do.
But they said
game, right?
they were doing it deliberately a lot of the time, and they were very explicit about it, saying like we don't want this to be a competitive
they added
game.
Slipping to Brawl. They added slipping where you would randomly just kind of fall down
over.
just to make it less competitive.
Big Steam Giant fans, Richard.
If another game comes out, I can almost guarantee there's going to be some kind of mechanic like items.
Sadly, they will never get that. It's a bag. Keep going.
Yeah, I feel like they're getting fed up with the competitive scene, especially after the relationship got so strained between the Smash community and Nintendo after the Panda Global thing, because Panda Global was working directly with Nintendo, and they felt burned because the Smash community all attacked them and boycotted their event, and then Ludwig ran a tournament on the same day as the finals, so they had to cancel $100,000 circuit because of Ludwig.
That Ludwig fella, I hope he comes up again in this episode for some reason.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. He's just always there for some reason.
I know.
If you guys don't know, Ludwig did in fact like come more or less from the Smash community. That was his, big...
that's all I need to condemn the whole thing. Nuke it from orbit. I'm done. You have to understand. I'll put my cards on the table in case anyone's going to be. Who are these foreigners? I also have never given a flying fuck. I vaguely, like I said, only cared about Street Fighter in the curtains of like I heard the narrative of Daigo and Justin Wong and some of the early people. I've never cared about beat 'em ups at all. That's even what I used to purposely call them to irritate people in the fighting game community. I call them beat 'em ups, and then I was only trolling, but I would always be like, "Wow, I don't want to watch a bunch of people button bashing. I like real skill. It's all the usual elitism." So you have to realize you're not special in that sense, FGC. That's just like all the other games I don't give a fuck about. I only care about Counter-Strike and then maybe a bit of League of Legends and then Quake if it's still existed, but it doesn't. So don't worry.
So this is all to say that what has happened, if you guys are unaware, in the intervening years, this is the speedrun version, is that the Smash community is still alive in spite of the antagonism by Nintendo. Because remember, Nintendo hates esports and they don't want a competitive circuit. And in fact, Nintendo was shutting down Melee
Yeah, I was going to
events.
say, what is it? You get hit with a cease and desist if there's more than like 30 people there or some shit, right? Like,
yeah, the problem is, I think it's really a cultural problem between Japan and America, because with Japan, if you even touch, like, modify the original IP, it's like taboo. They do not like that. But with Melee, they've had to make certain modifications to the game to make it more modern so people can still play it. And they just don't like what is it called? UCF or whatever. They have universal controller fixes that they patch into the game. Nintendo does not like change it. They want you to play vanilla Melee, and the Melee community doesn't like it.
There's also the other detail if people don't know. Like, I've heard this has changed now, but for a long time in Japan, there was no esports because you weren't allowed to hold competitions and award prize money, as far as I know.
Yeah, even in Japan, they don't have prizes for Smash.
Something like that, I've heard, yeah. So I also, as a company, they're not really like suited to think of how Western esports runs in that sense.
Yeah, and they don't want to. Yeah. Like I said, like we said, they've invented ways of the game to sabotage professional play because their idea of it. I mean, and Nintendo wants Smash to be a casual party game, and they don't want it to also be a hyper-competitive esport, even though, obviously, it being a hyper-competitive esport only really benefits them. So they will literally sabotage parts of the hyper-competitive esport.
But what's crazy is they host invitationals every time they release a new game and invite pro players to demo the games in competition. So it's such confusing messaging and signaling from the parent company, where it's like, do you want this to be like Splatoon, where you actually host the World Cup or whatever, or do you just want it to be a party game?
Right.
And I think they were actually moving towards making it a circuit with Panda Global, and then all that stuff happened.
That's
they're like, you know what, never mind.
So Smash grew up basically without a lot of developer support, very grassroots, very organic scene, and it was powered. Part of what the FGC does well is power esports from a grassroots level, which we wish happened in other esports. So that's one thing we don't want to criticize the FGC about. And Smash was really no different in that. And this resulted in a variety of tournaments, really cool rivalries. And Richard mentioned the Smash documentary that got released. That was huge. And it was pretty much an independent project. And in my opinion, it is a very interesting documentary. But people did really...
It was well done for what it was.
Yeah, it was a really good documentary, in my opinion. But it galvanized a lot of the scene. It became a viral hit across multiple esports, by the way. A lot of people like me who are in other esports who have fond memories of Smash came to this and watched it and was like, oh my God, look at how cool this scene is. And like, look how interesting these rivalries are. And isn't it nice how grassroots this is? Even this documentary is grassroots and it's very well made, especially for the almost no money that it cost to make it. And so this, to Richard's point, galvanized a lot of teams to kind of capitalize on this hype and invest a lot of money within the Melee and the broader Smash scenes. But there have been, the downside of having this community focus is that there, especially in Smash, have been a lot of very, very dark scandals. And I mean, that is what we're going to talk about today. I mean, we are literally going to talk about sexual relationships with minors, suicide, and substance abuse. These are the topics today. And like, we haven't dove into this ever, but this is the underbelly of the Smash scene. And a lot of this, you guys will remember it.
And also, it is all infused with politics as well, bizarrely.
Yes.
It's the most political esport I've ever experienced.
So, where this, we can touch on some of the larger scandals that have happened over the years, but this is basically, there has been a lot of the community that has been rife with professional players or notable personalities doing sexual messaging at the minimum with minors. And this spilled over into League of Legends with Sky Williams. If you guys are LoL fans, you might remember this. Yeah. And we'll start there because that was the one that kind of reached containment into other esports, because Sky was a content creator within the League of Legends space as well, but was known in the Smash community. And I'll let technicals handle this, but he basically for years was operating a gaming house, and he was actively grifting in that he had a pretty big YouTube, but he was borrowing money from people to fund an extremely lavish lifestyle in which other members of the Smash community would live with him in this house, and then he would allegedly, make sexual advances on them or use it sexually to get leverage. Meanwhile, he was just grifting everybody in the community. Famously, LS lent him significant amounts of money. And he paid back very little of it until his Ponzi scheme came crashing down. But it was kind of a wild thing. What's your take on the Sky Williams house technicals?
Yeah, so if you grew up looking up to Smash players or in the Smash scene, it was kind of like a mythos. It was like the pantheon. You're like, oh, the Sky House. That's where people went, like a hyperbolic time chamber, to go get their level up, go practice with the best. And if you were lucky enough, you would be staying there with those people. Little did we know, you get a bunch of gamers that only play video games in-house. It's fucking disgusting. There was plenty of substance abuse problems, a lot of underage drinking. And the main controversy from the Sky House thing was the fact that there were allegations of people in and around that house that then ended up getting all the blame was pinned on Sky, which I don't necessarily think that is fair to Sky, because it's not like he could be aware of everything they're doing at all times. But there should have been a more responsible culture in place. And I think enabling them to live that kind of lavish lifestyle, like you were saying, by funding it all himself through his YouTube channel, and also by getting loans from other people. It was
basically the rest of the non-Smash esports community funding him. He was going outside he was basically wetting his beak in the money from other esports scenes, his connections through individuals. He was a very charismatic, nice guy.
He's quite a big content creator in League as well early on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So they could get hundreds of thousands of views. Yeah,
he had plenty of money because his vlogs were popping off. So,
but he stopped making them.
But
that's true at first, but he stopped making them. And then what he did, I know, because he tried to grift me, dude. I know, because he was saying I'm gonna start streaming again. I'm gonna start my YouTube again. This is what he tried. He's like, hey Monty, can you lend me some money? I'm gonna do I've got these YouTube videos. I'm making a YouTube studio. I'm gonna start doing this again. So he made it seem to people like he was going to do this, but he never did these things. He just took the money and then never did the things.
I knew Sky pretty well, and we even hung out in Vegas when I was living out in Vegas. I don't even know where that puts me. This might be like a self-report, like hanging out with fucking Epstein or something after the first conviction.
I would not compare him to Epstein.
I'm not comparing him to Epstein. I'm not doing that neither. I'm just making a point of I still went and had drinks with him. I don't know if this was going on at the time. There was a lot of signal noise around the Sky house and what was going on. And I just knew Sky from League, and we went out and we like had some drinks and stuff, and we used to hang out. But I mean, I also knew he was a crazy motherfucker. Like, I mean, I also knew he was in financial trouble, and I knew, I don't know how the fuck he got in so deep. I don't know what his proclivity was or his addiction was or anything like that, but he was just hemorrhaging cash. I mean, he hit everyone up in the scene.
Was there ever a total number? Didn't people imply it was like hundreds of thousands or something?
It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yes.
Yeah, it's got to be a crazy amount of debt, and it's like, I don't understand how he could have ever got there. This was a big mainstream YouTuber that was bizarrely liked by Riot as well. Usually external people, they don't like so much. He could have had a ton of opportunities across multiple things. Also, remember, he framed himself as being like, he wanted to be a stand-up comedian kind of guy, which, we talked about all the time. And then obviously it was like, when I started hearing about the stuff that went in the house, because it was our colleague Jacob Wolf did the definitive report on him, and that was after I left Vegas. That would have been 2020, 21, round about then. And then when I heard about all the stuff that was going on in the house, it wasn't just a guy had a bunch of people living with him, and then they like took over the house, and then he couldn't get rid of them, and then they were like costing him money, and he was freaking out, and he didn't know what to do. That was kind of how it was always framed to me. What I heard about afterwards was, there was like rumors that he was taking people's, like, some of their paycheck. There was fucking abuse allegations from under the roof. There was like just all sorts of fucked up shit going on in one place.
Well, one of the main things that people were highlighting was the fact that he was like, hey, you need to pay rent like at this time, or I'm going to go into your room and break X item. Shit like that.
Yeah.
That was fucked up.
Yeah.
But also, I can imagine how stressful the situation is when you're in a situation where you're funding other people's dreams. They're wasting your time and money. There's no yield because there's no money in the community. So you realize that the dream that you're building up isn't actually profitable. And then at a certain point, it seems like a sunk cost fallacy where he just kept throwing more money at it, hoping that it would fix itself, hoping that there would be some return for his investment, when really there was nothing there to begin with. So I could see how that would turn to chaos pretty easily. I just hated
the Team House era across all of esports in general anyway. I don't think it's appropriate. I never really did, because people wanted to like get into, when you were doing like LCS, for example, or any of these California-based projects, if you wanted to pay for a property for each of your players, it was so exorbitant to just live in that state. And that was a demand from Riot.
Even like content houses.
Exactly.
It seems like a massive waste of money.
I've never liked, even back in the day when they were just content houses, because there's no safeguards in place for any of the people there. I mean, you've got a bunch of young, under-socialized people, some of them famous, making a lot of money, and they're all just living in like, say, it's like, you might even have two people in a room, like you're going back to like fucking school days or something, you know what I mean? Like, it was really crazy, and I hated all of that stuff. I'm glad we moved away from it. But the Sky Houses it was essentially just that model, except I don't know what they didn't seem to make content. There wasn't like a 24-hour live stream.
There was a few of them that started to make content. So Mewtwo King and ZeRo were kind of the real.
Mewtwo King were the two big.
They were the real ones that actually made content. The other ones were just trying to, become the best of the best, to get hopefully signed by like a tier 1 organization. Why would you go to
Sky Williams? Like, why is he the fucking Yoda of Smash? Like, why do I go?
I think it's just because he had the most money. He seemed like the epicenter.
Right. Yeah. He was definitely faking that shit.
Sure, but it's also, if you don't have any money and it's a grassroots community, it's a place that you can actually live for free or for lower cost.
He's going to pay your rent, and then he already has top players living there, so you can train. Like, that's the dream for a Smash player. I don't have to pay rent, and I can play Smash all day. Sign me up.
So there.
But with that,
go.
Where are you saying?
Go.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, for that investigation, I actually got all of Sky Williams' Facebook chat logs, so I could cross-reference some of the things that people were saying, because there were some falsehoods that were thrown in there.
Okay.
Especially from Jisoo, that became a pretty contentious point, and she ended up deleting that document that was like 64 pages long or whatever. So there were opportunistic allegations mixed in with the very valid ones, like how he probably was not a very good landlord. There was some abuse mixed in there. And the whole structure of it was just terrible in general, and he was financially irresponsible. And
Well,
I feel like
he was subletting anyway, right? I mean, like,
yeah,
learn a fucking life lesson on this one, guys. Like, you know, if he doesn't own the property and he's like leasing it out to you via a subletting thing, you've got no rights essentially. You know, you've only got the rights given to you under the law. There's no explicit contract rights because you haven't entered into a contract with this guy. So, I mean, just another fucking just immaturity across the board from everybody. You know,
absolutely. I just wish he would lock in, get back to uploading content, and hopefully get on the path to paying back people who you need
By the
to
way,
pay back.
was it just financial stuff, or was it ever implied there was any like bizarre sexual element? Was that actually something that was implied?
I don't think he ever did anything sexual to people in the house. It was the fact that there was multiple people in the house who had sexual allegations, and they're like, this dude fucking facilitated all of it. It's like, well, that's not necessarily true, but it is an irresponsible and bad environment.
Right.
Mm. So, I mean, this chains into, another major scandal that happened. You guys mentioned ZeRo. ZeRo was probably the best Smash, Wii player. He became one of the best Smash Brawl players. He was incredibly dominant in the Smash Wii era of the scene. And he was later then implicated in some sexual messaging of a minor, right? Technical. So what happened was, I mean, you have to understand that from if you're coming from another esport, this is like the main content creator in your game was running this house. And then the most dominant player by a long shot for like a couple years is now involved.
World record holder.
Yeah. Is now involved in a messaging minor sexual scandal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that started off actually from the Sky House allegation from Jisoo that I was talking about. So she accused ZeRo initially of, at the Sky House, showing her hentai. That was her allegation. No one else in the house backed it up. I talked to people like Orion and Mewtwo King and people who lived in the house. No one had heard of this. She was the only one who said that. That's why I was like, okay, well, you're just poisoning the well if you're going to throw in fake stuff.
Yep.
Along with all this serious allegations. But as far as messaging the minor, I think it was 19. He was 19 and he messaged a 14-year-old inappropriately.
Did he know that they were that old? Age is implied, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So I advocated for ZeRo to be banned from Smash along with
reasonable, yeah.
Along with the other, he was like a top 5 player or the second best player, Nairo, who actually was sexually intimate with another player that was 15 when he was 20. And there was a whole like nationwide movement to get that guy unbanned Nairo. There was probably like over 100,000 tweets to get that guy unbanned. And if you think about it critically, what he's saying does not make sense. And he alleged that he had a legal defense, like a 30-page document defending himself. He had Alpharad sign on to it. So Alpharad signed out onto it and vouched for him. Void, Paradin, Cosmos. We still have never seen that document, and he's still one of the biggest Smash content creators to this day. So ZeRo, he doesn't really upload as much. He's pretty much been blackballed, blacklisted. Nairo, still a very huge figure in Smash, and I have no idea why. He's still collab with like MKLeo, who's like one of the best players in Smash. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm. 2 quick things. One, I noticed apparently in Smash they have an even worse disease than we do in the normal part of esports. In esports, we always make fun that when everyone fucks up, they don't just go, well, I'll consult my lawyer. They rush to write a twit longer where they just incriminate themselves further. Apparently everyone's doing fucking 50-page documents in Smash.
Yes.
Stealing or like, mate, at the end of your giant 50-page document, how's it going to let me go, all right, in that case, yeah, message about it. That makes sense, mate.
ZeRo confirmed everything. He did put a twit longer out, but then, I want to talk to technicals about this part of the story because I think this is an interesting topic just as a sidebar. But then he attempted suicide. And then he went away. Yeah, I know, right? And then he went away for a while. And then he came back. And
guys, as a comment did say on Technical's video, which I thought was brilliant, they said something like, it's a shame this all goes on in a game in which like Luigi punches Pikachu in the face or something. It's like, fucking
it's crazy that we even have to talk about this.
That's madness, isn't it? Yeah, keep going.
He attempted suicide and then went away for a while, obviously to get mentally healthy, came back, and then he said he confessed under duress, like he was being pressured to say that he did it. It was the only way to make people stop and go away. And now he said that he doesn't accept that he did what he was accused.
Now he's retracted even that, right?
the evidence with the case was ZeRo and Katie when he was 19, she was 14. The messages are him being weird with her, right? But there's no like the direct allegation from her was sexual solicitation.
Yeah, he was going to meet her, right? That was the thing. Yeah.
No, not a meetup, but of images.
I thought it was. I thought she accused him of like she was going to pay for him to go to a hotel or something. Or was that somebody else?
No, that was a different one. That was a different one, and that was proved that she lied about her age.
Yeah, I was going to say she lied about that. Yeah.
So when people say I defended ZeRo, it's like, yeah, well, I defended him against a chick lying about him showing her hentai, and the other chick who was provably lying about her age. I never.
They say that to make it sound like you defended everything he did.
Exactly.
Yes,
if you add any nuance to the conversation, and it's like this is what's true, this is what's like false. This person's just lying. Then you defended them just flat out.
But the other thing I wanted to just quickly say is this. There's a reason why I hope that people out there who are just casuals, who aren't familiar with like the pro side of esports, I hope you don't make an obvious mistake here, which is you might think, well, I'm just a lonely nerd who's at home. I'm stuck behind the monitor. I don't meet people. You might think, I can feel sorry for these players, you know. Maybe they just have like bad socialization. Maybe they don't meet girls. Maybe that's like the only connection they had. No. These were the top pros in the game. If you are the top pros in the game, every single hobby and discipline that I'm aware of in the world that has any amount of like skill, fame, or money involved attracts groupies. It attracts people who are all of age who will want to sleep with you if you are famous people. That's why Monty will know a famous case in League of Legends that was like this. The guy I'm thinking of in League of Legends, Monty, could have had girls falling over himself at after parties. He could have had 1,000,000 21-year-olds that wanted to date him. He went out of his way to pick people who were 14, 15. And that's the sinister part beyond just the obvious thing here to me. It's like, these people often, it's clearly something that is wrong with them, and they're choosing from among the people, the person who's underage, which can imply things like you think you can manipulate them, you can grip them. Also, it opens up an even shadowier aspect to me. It's not just one person got unlucky and then he found out last minute that they were 40. You know, that's being too generous, I think.
I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but the most generous take on that angle of things is that these people are just extremely emotionally stunted from having played video games for years, and the only people they can.
But let's not get it twisted. All fucking nonsense and weirdos like that are. So.
Sure.
Yeah. It's essentially the Michael Jackson defense when he was young and he had his childhood taken away from him because he was a star. It
doesn't forgive it, but also I think it is a factor in what happens is that these people are emotionally young teenagers because they did nothing but play video games. And so the only people that they can interact with, like the fact is that a normal 21-year-old might find their emotional development insufficient.
When you're looking at like the psychological profile of a lot of these guys, especially in Smash, because why is it so prevalent there? Well, there's a lot of meetups in person at your local events, and how good you are at the game correlates with your social standing to these people.
Certainly.
So if they grew up playing the game, and that's been like their understanding of social interactions for like 5-10 years, and then they see this 16-year-old who's really good. They hang out all the time. They go out to eat. They're like, oh, he's just like me. You know, he just plays the game. He's as good as me. We talk like we're, you know, just peers, like colleagues. No, that's not your colleague. That's a child. They don't make that distinction in their head. And that's what causes so many of these cases to happen is they have that mix up where it's like, no, you need to have that line, that distinction that this is a child and you are an adult. You need to have separate boundaries with how you're interacting with them.
Well, that's what happened with the Cinepie stuff, right? That was the you know, like that one was even crazier, like because first of all,
that was what actually kickstarted all of it.
That was the first one.
I remember messaging her. I was like, "Is this true?" And she said no. And then I was like, "Oh, okay." And then it all came out, and I was like, "Well, I guess that was a fucking lie."
Well, yeah. I mean, like she'd basically talked to like a 14-year-old guy.
People don't know this is actually a rare case of a woman doing it.
Yeah, and she was 24.
Yeah. Yes. And she wasn't bad looking either, so it's like, why? Like, why?
Yeah, that's also why people disputed it. The logic was like, you wouldn't have to, which is, by the way, a classic thing people say about celebrity predators, unfortunately, isn't it?
Well, but also
they can have any girls, so how do you want you?
South Park's hard for guys to come up with that, too.
Nailed it with when young boys get groomed and abused by women. They nailed
the nice episode.
Nice.
Absolutely.
They absolutely nailed that.
They killed it.
I mean, you know, like I've even seen. Put it this way, I've got friends who have been abused And when they see that news story come up, like hot teacher has sex with 14-year-old school, they still reflexively go, man, lucky bastard. And I'm like, what? Like, how can you of all
That's that thing. I always think there's a very obvious mistake they're making. They're envisioning themselves now as an adult now in the body of they're forgetting that when they actually were the 12-year-old, they wouldn't think the same.
They're on some reverse Tom Hanks in big shit.
Agreed.
When you're that young, you're confused and maybe very anxious about it, and that can cause some serious side effects mentally and psychologically.
Of course. Power
by the
dynamics,
way,
all that
this
shit.
also ties into the broader picture, because as we discussed on the episode about SonicFox, actually, one of the reasons why he himself and many others previously boycotted Evo was one of the lead people within Evo was accused of this stuff, right?
Yes. Dude, he literally, Mr. Wizard. So I actually contemplated doing a video on Mr. Wizard because it was the whole thing.
By the way, if you're ever going to get caught in a case like this, having your alias be Mr. Wizard is you didn't think this one through at all. But keep going. It's
he's basically giving them Chuck E. Cheese tokens to take off their shorts and stuff in front of them. And it's oh my God. And that was Mr. Wizard. He's I can't morally support Evo with a pedophile. And it's but you can support several human rights violations from a country that wants
it's
you
even
to
worse
not
than that,
exist?
technicals, because Saudi Arabia has basically enshrined marrying underage people into law, where they said, oh no, we're not doing underage marriages anymore. And what they have actually done is they have said they created an online rubber stamping system where if a woman has reached sexual maturity, so as in had their first period, a doctor can confirm that, and all you have to do is submit that form online to the Saudi government, where it just gets rubber stamp approved by a judge, and you can marry people who are 12. Just gonna put that out there.
Damn.
And by the way, they had,
where are we, Alabama?
What?
I think it was 2017, they had 15,000 marriages of people aged 15 to 17, obviously mostly women, if not entirely.
Dude, we're gonna see a lot of smash tourneys in Saudi
Listen,
Arabia.
no fucking
Wow.
shit. How dare you fucking criticize another culture? I'm fucking shocked.
How dare I have values and then apply them universally?
I was going to meet a real racist today.
That's insane. I didn't know, but I knew about the child marriages and stuff. I didn't know they had the whole online.
Oh yeah, I mean, I responded to SonicFox with this information on Twitter. I was like,
that's what I don't get though, because if you're going to set a moral
links to the articles about this, by the way.
Correct.
And in that statement where he said he was boycotting Evo with Mr. Wizard, it was, I can't support someone something like this when the owner has these allegations. It wasn't even it was allegations.
Yeah.
So you're not even you don't even have it confirmed, and you're already going to boycott, but you won't boycott Saudi Arabia. It just doesn't click to me. I don't.
Yeah, just allegations, mate. Those fucking.
All right. So we do need a lot of time to talk about the next couple of topics, because this has been a crash course. Obviously, this wasn't a nuanced
Just to wrap it up,
take.
if we may, Monty, I may make one final point. I do want people to understand how bad it was and ubiquitous it was in Smash. And I wanted to ask Technicals a question as well, just before we do move on to the next topic. So the first thing I want to say is, just to give you an idea of the scale, I think there were over 100 allegations at this time.
I think it was 50 plus.
Right. I mean, I guess
there could be
include.
But by now, there's definitely.
By the way, a lot of these.
I remember the headline on day one was 50 allegations or whatever.
Yeah, that was the day one headline. For sure, by now.
Are essentially people grooming people on Discord, right? It's mainly stuff like that.
It's a lot of
It's mainly messaging, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, that's how omnipresent it was in this particular community. And put it this way, I was there. I was at the forefront. I was writing about the esports Me Too movement, saying this is a good thing. I think people, they thought I was so much of an edgelord. I would be online with on board with abusive women or something. People didn't know me at all. I was out there writing about it. I got picked up by a few the mainstream press outlets, because I was saying this is fucking long overdue. There's a bunch of mediocre fucking men that are absolute monsters behind the scenes, and people know it, but but the victims don't want anyone else to say about it, because it's their story. It's got to be them that decide what you want to do with that, even if you know about it. And all you could do is back channel and go to tournament organizers. Maybe don't hire this guy, he's a fucking wrong or whatever. And so I was saying all of this stuff. Sorry, jump in, Tech.
No, I could directly credit most of my success in my career to those allegations coming out.
Sure.
covering the bad ones, and then also providing actual evidence to some of the other ones that were probably more hysterical, because it was almost like a mass psychosis where everyone convinced themselves they needed to come out with something.
Yeah.
And not always was it accurate. So you see that sometimes with like the Me Too era stuff.
Sure, you did.
Also,
and I made that point too.
A lot of that era was people who saw an opportunity to become famous lying or exaggerating the truth.
This was the madness of the Me Too period of the internet, right? It was that, okay, we want abusers out, right? Of course we do. What the fuck? Right? That's pretty straightforward. And yeah, I'm going to listen to the allegations. But then it kind of veered into the, well, believe every allegation territory. And if you don't believe every allegation, you might be a sexist pig. And it's like, no, it's pretty
Like, did you seriously just question me? It's like, you wrote a wall of text. So whatever this other guy says can immediately counter what you just said, because there's no direct evidence to what you're claiming.
And so I was saying that, going like, look, some of these allegations don't pass the sniff test. We should be very, very careful. Because you want to know what's like one down on the totem pole of like an abuser doing something abusive, making up an abuse allegation and fucking destroying someone's life. They become unemployable, their wife leaves them, they lose access to their kids. You know what I mean? We
just had a case in Strive in the FGC where Umisho, one of the top players, like one of the top 10 players in the game, lied about sexual assault, and then another player, Red I Am Not, attempted suicide because of that. And then Arxis finally stepped in, and they only gave everyone a 3-month ban. I'm like, what are you talking about? This person gets a 3-month ban for lying about sexual assault. They admitted to lying about sexual assault. They apologized to the person. He got unbanned because everyone was lying about him. And now they're just chill, and they're just going to the event. I'm like, that's insane to me.
Yeah.
I think you should have the same punishment.
To tie it to what you guys said earlier, notice the key distinction there, Richard. It's not that someone has evidence come out or they are found guilty in a court of law. Allegations alone can destroy your entire career. Yep, as pointed out, even though it turned out maybe that guy did do it.
The way the modern internet
just the allegations will make everyone distance you.
All that ever has to happen is some half-truth, vaguely remembered, like we're in fucking Silo. We can't remember the actual fact or what it was all about. But didn't we hear something about Thorin being a fucking racist or something like that? Now, I can't find a tweet of you doing it, and I can't find a fucking, report of you.
It's almost like a vibes thing, but it feels like it.
But it feels like he probably would be.
Absolutely.
Look at his mean little pinched up face. He probably is one. So
they don't realize the victims that they're creating when they do that. People who are victims of that have like PTSD. They struggle with their personal life. It's
not just that.
What
huge disrespect to actual victims of abuse. If you flood the zone with shit, that's less attention on the victims that need your support by definition. So it is an outrageously unpleasant thing to do.
And God forbid you ever actually, somehow it's rare, get proven that you lied and made it all up, because then you will actually now cast doubt upon other unrelated cases where people didn't do any of that shit, but that was some idiot 15-year-old's going to go away. That was not.
I always tell victims when I correspond with them to at least try to get some kind of report, get something on file, something that can like help you out, because even if you just have that, people will believe you more. And that
they'll say, why didn't you go to the police and stuff? Yeah, you got to have like a report.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you got to defend yourself before you want me to defend you.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, look, here was the question I wanted to ask you. And it's just one that I have a morbid curiosity in. Obviously, you covered the ZeRo story, and I think you were incredibly fair in how you covered it, in that you said, this allegation appears to be true, these allegations appear to be false, this person should be banned on the basis of this allegation here. And then obviously he attempts suicide. And I wanted to know what you were feeling when that news kind of came filtering to you, because I've written articles that have ultimately led to putting people in very dark places because I am acting on a public interest. But I'm also empathetic enough to realize that, when bad people are going to commit self-harm, I'm not saying I necessarily want that to happen either, right? Like, so how did you feel when that kind of came out?
Well, my mom was a cop. I grew up Baptist Christian, so I'm kind of like on the redemption side of things. Right. I want people to go through the due process and, become in their own way valuable to society if possible. So I don't like seeing these situations where people get this giant mob and then it's just a lynch mob where they want them to basically just die.
Yeah.
I'm never out for blood. I want accountability. I want them to recognize that what they did is wrong, and admit to that, and maybe try to be a better person after the fact. But yeah, no, whenever I see something like a suicide attempt, I'm like, okay, maybe we need to reevaluate how hard we're going in on this. Give them a little bit of space to breathe, but don't let them fully off the hook just because of that.
You didn't feel any guilt?
From the suicide attempt?
Yeah.
I don't think I contributed to ZeRo attempting suicide.
Well, I mean, a lot of people make the argument when you're a reporter, which I know we can joke around and say you're a YouTuber.
People accuse me of hacks. People accuse me of contributing to hacks.
This is why I wanted to bring this up now and kind of ground some axioms and stuff, because we're going to be talking about that later. But obviously, it's like, there will be people that will point the finger and go, well, if you hadn't made your video, he wouldn't have got harassed. Right.
He attempted suicide before I started working on the video.
Oh, my bad. Okay, so I'm off on the chronology, right? Okay. But you had talked about it, right? Hadn't you?
I don't think I talked about his specifically, because at the time I made my ESAM video where I exposed him saying the N-word. And then people accused me of using that situation where all the allegations were coming out to kind of jump. I was already working on the video. It was a long video.
Right.
But those allegations all came out at the same time.
I thought you had covered the ZeRo thing as it was happening. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I came like months and months later.
Right. Oh, so I'm misremembering. Because I do follow all of your stuff, and I followed all that Smash stuff at the time. Because it was I
got accused of trying to jump onto that wave because of the ESAM thing. I was like, no, it's a coincidence, bro.
Okay.
And he just ended up in the Gamer from Mars video for 100 white YouTubers that said the N-word, if you guys want to check that out.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I just couldn't think of a piece of content I'd want to watch less. Like, you know what I mean? 100 content creators that said this.
Surely that gets old like a minute or two in, you know what I mean? Like, I think I know what's coming.
It's 2 hours long. I can't...
What sort of pre-drinking ritual do you need to watch that video? I know.
But like, it also to like, okay, look, I understand we're going to chronicle things for history. That's it.
It's the idea that's what they find in some silo future where there's not much media. There's an old video here. Fucking hell.
All right.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Sorry, we can move on. All
right. So, Tech, before we get into the hacks and Mang0 stuff, is there any other issues from the past that you think inform those topics? Because the purpose of giving this kind of laying the groundwork is that, this has been a community that has been in crisis for a significant amount of time and had some of the, I would say, biggest scandals, not only in Smash, like FGC, but also all of esports, that they've kind of slid under the radar of the broader esports fans' attention.
Right. So we mentioned the lack of sponsorships from a parent company. So part of the problem is the decentralization. There is just warring factions and groups that kind of work like cliques to inform different groups of how things should be ran and to also self-police. They're not good at self-governance. They've admitted that. They've tried different systems. They've all crumbled after a year or months of attempting to build some kind of code of conduct structure. So that's one problem. Another problem
let me just jump in here and say that's because this is a grassroots effort and there's a bunch of independent tournaments and competitions, and basically the organizers get together and try and make some sort of rules about their circuit, and this is what he's talking about has failed.
Yeah. Right. That it always fails because they can't agree, or they don't want to give too much power to one person. They're like, oh, you want to decide you want to have all the power. It's like, no, dude, I just want to get something working. So they always fight over kind of that power imbalance. And then also, like we talked about, there's no line on behavior, like how you're supposed to behave with children versus your peers that are actually your own age. And then you mix that in with like substance abuse, alcohol, even hallucinogens like LSD. There was an issue with me where the player from my region, he started doing cocaine and LSD. And he tried to hit me with his car. And that's kind of what like launched me criticizing Smash players, because I was like, this is not a good environment to be in.
Like what? So yeah, you tried to fucking kill you.
Pretty much. And he
hasn't even had a mace for that. What the fuck?
I don't think it was high when he tried to kill me, but he was doing LSD.
Did he get in trouble at the place for that?
Yeah, and then they unbanned him. They banned him, and then they had a meet.
They banned the Axe guy forever, but people are allowed to attempt vehicular.
This was in my local. This was in my local area. Yeah.
Hell.
And then he took his mom's car, drove it into a wall, survived, and then started telling everyone at a Denny's that he was Jesus Christ because he survived. And then he later got arrested.
All right.
Yeah, he got arrested out of college because he started making death threats to people over Facebook.
I mean, listen, since you're, a Baptist and all that, you'll, I don't know, obviously he was clearly unwell. I mean, so, I guess. Glad you made it through with that one, and hope he's better as well, I guess.
Yeah, I have
that
no
sounds
idea
like
where
that's
he's
more
at.
than drugs. That sounds like he's got fucking, schizophrenia or something.
He had some problems. He had like narcissistic problems, but
Many such cases.
so that's the biggest issues I think that lead into everything that we're seeing now. It all comes from the decentralization and lack of there's a lack of, what is it called? Like social boundaries.
Sure. The Four Horsemen is brought to you by Factor Meals. Fall can be a busy time with the summer ending, routines picking up as you get back to school or really buckle in at work. And what better way to save some money, well, most likely living a healthier lifestyle, than by getting some Factor Meals. They are never frozen, delivered to you fresh in a refrigerated box weekly. All you have to do is pop them in your own refrigerator and then heat them up in 2 minutes in the microwave. It'll be cheaper and most likely healthier than the delivery options that you guys would be picking for yourselves. At least that's true for me. They now have new global flavors, so they're Asian-inspired meals for the first time, with flavors influenced by China, Thailand, and other countries. They also have GLP-1 friendly meals and new Mediterranean diet options, and that goes on top of all of the other meal options they have, like vegetarian, keto, etc. They also have premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. So apparently 97% of customers have said that Factor has helped them live a healthier life. That's been my experience using it as well, because it is both healthy and extremely easy. Plus, they rotate the meals every week, so you're never going to get bored. So great product, guys. And you can eat smart at factormeals.com/horsemen, plural, MEN, 50 off. That's 50 off. So horsemen 50 off. And use code horsemen50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for an entire year. That's code horsemen50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer valid only for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Give it a shot. You can cancel anytime. You can also just put it on hiatus, put it on hold if you guys are taking a vacation or you're going to be out doing something else for a week. It's really easy. All you do on the website and skip that week. It's incredibly easy. Great product. Thank you to Factor. Okay, so what we're going to get into now is there have been more or less a double whammy of major incidents that have occurred. And part of this, is the fact that this small scene was injected with money after this Smash documentary. It was raised in profile. A lot of big teams got involved, which, of course, we're going to talk about Mang0 and Cloud9 and what that meant. But because a lot of these orgs, I would say, are used to working with dev-operated or more professionally run circuits, I think they were unprepared for what it meant, to have these high-profile incidents take place. Because usually, Riot or ESL or somebody else is going to handle all of the bad shit that happens or try and minimize it for you. Whereas there is no enforcement mechanism outside of public shame within the Smash and sometimes broader FGC ecosystems in order to tamp things down. The first issue, and please, we will link the video below in the description. Go watch Technical's incredible 2-hour-long video about hacks, which is going to go into much more detail than we can do here. We will do it at a very high level, but it includes it's
the definitive piece of media on the subject from start to finish. It's a masterpiece of kind of reporting on a topic, which actually, considering its length, it's really engaging as well.
Yes.
So it's probably the most important piece of content you've ever produced. I think I would.
And by the way, Tag, I found
agree.
the this is an aside at the start, the criticism you have faced from the Smash community to be absolutely ridiculous, because you show up to this video with all of the receipts, including these horrendous group chat discussions.
It's the definition of shooting the messenger onto the reel.
Where people like, I did some research and just about like, what did the Smash community think about technicals about this? I'm like reading these insane people on Reddit saying, oh, he only shows up for the drama, as if putting all of this into the light is not in fact good for the scene. Like, it's almost like they want the bad operators to continue to be in stealth mode, doing fucked up shit in the Smash community.
He's not even doing it the way that people who are clout goblins do it. He didn't make like a 10-minute, like, hey, in the background.
I could have easily made it in a day.
I've got like the Zuma bait background, and I'm just going, hey guys, I've heard, like, maybe some people. No, he went and
talking over some CS footage.
Got evidence and cross-referenced it and thought like you.
It took me 2 months. I actually lost money because I also donated the ad revenue.
There's another thing. Two things. One,
someone else.
That if anyone who says you're a clout goblin, if you ever did research, is a cretin. You will never, from the ad revenue on a YouTube video, ever make more than something like 4 or 5 hours of work. So I can tell you, when you make a video where you go in depth, hundreds of hours.
It's your boy Jake Lucky here, and you're never going to guess what Hack said on this tweet. But then this person said this on this tweet.
The point is,
let me know what you think in the comments.
That's the incredibly low-effort content. Yeah. Anyone who's doing this is not doing that whatsoever. And
it was an obsessive project, and it was really just because I was angry and sad about my friend. So I did everything I could to make the video better.
May I ask how well you knew Hacks, if that's okay?
Ever since. So before he got banned, we would talk a little bit. This was right when all the allegations and stuff were coming out, because we kind of had a similar opinion about the direction of the community and how they kind of functioned as cliques, and there was no successful code of conduct or way to apply that. So we would talk for a bit, but after he got banned, we would talk way more frequently about his ban, about the problems that we have with the community, about ways to help him mentally, emotionally. So I got pretty invested in the content.
So, do go watch that video, guys. You will find it very compelling. There'll be a lot of it. And at a high level, what we're going to do is discuss the kind of sequence of things that happened, and then we will go into our takes on it. But effectively, Hacks was a well-known member, not the most famous member, and that's actually very crucial to this story, because in a way he was, it was his interactions with much more prominent Smash personalities that caused his ban, as far as I can tell from the evidence that has been provided. But he was a well enough known member of the Smash community, a skilled player who was on the tournament circuit. He was running his own competitive events in New York City, which is one of the kind of hubs of Smash play. And he unfortunately committed suicide this year. And I think we can look at the evidence and say that a large part of the reason he committed suicide was his denial of access to the Smash community, and his ban, which seems particularly unjust, and also people within the Smash community gaslighting him and pretending to be his friend and then trolling him for jokes, which was exacerbating his poor mental health condition in really messed up ways.
This is a broader, what we're going to talk about now is actually a broader thing that you need to really be mindful of. And I know we've got a lot of young listeners, and obviously we're a bunch of unks, technicals obviously notwithstanding. And let me just say, like, you've got to, it is incredibly important for your own mental health. You've got to have a real tangible support group in your life. If you're going to throw yourself into these online and digital spaces, and it's going to be the thing that defines you and completes you, and you think that these people will have your back no matter what, they're going to look after you, they're going to care for you, they're going to nurture you. It's just not the case. There's a lot of these spaces that the friendships and the relationships are very performative and tenuous, and they do not stand up to the test of any scrutiny whatsoever. That is ultimately what Hacks found himself a victim of, that people just, as soon as he became a perceived pariah, people walked away from him and left him alone, and it drove him to despair and a suicide attempt. And I implore everyone, particularly people, young people that are getting involved in political activist groups and things like this online, the first purity test you fail, you're going to lose all of your friends. You're going to lose all of these people that think they care about you and you might find yourself in as dark a place. And I implore everyone, like, if you learn anything from what we're about to talk about, learn that, you know, your family love you, your friends love you, whoever it might be, but real, tangible people out there in the world, not this. Don't view the world through a monitor, because it can be incredibly dangerous.
By the way, one thing I wanted to sort of set at the beginning as well, because I feel like this detail was actually missed when I saw casuals commenting on this from other esports who'd heard, like, oh, there's a story of a guy who got banned and then he did a suicide attempt and then he was banned still and then he had another, unfortunately, successful suicide attempt, essentially, right? When people bring this up, they miss a key detail, which I think is actually the most malevolent aspect of how the community treat this individual. And I'll draw a very quick comparison that Monty and Richard will know from League of Legends. I don't know, do you follow League of Legends much, the professional side, technicals?
Unfortunately,
right?
no.
Basically, there was a player, he was called Incarnation, was his alias. He was a notorious European mid laner, which was like the best position in the game. And he was a guy who was like unbelievable on the internet. If he played in solo queue, he was tearing everyone up. He was beating the best players in Europe. And everyone was like, wow, who is this? Like, mega talent. But the problem was, there was a darker element where people claimed that not only was he like toxic, which by the way in League can just mean you just type shit to people basically, but people also implied at the time maybe he was doing stuff like if you fucked with him or he didn't like you and you were a rival of his, maybe he would DDoS your computer offline. And because these allegations circled around him, and he'd also said some things which almost implied like maybe he was doing that. Again, we don't know if that was just trash talk or whatever, or if it was someone who knew him who did it. Basically, Riot gave him what was essentially an indefinite ban. They were just sort of like, right, we believe this is going on, so we're going to give you a ban. You're basically banned from pro play. You can never be a pro player ever. And what he did was, at the time, even though a lot of people, because Riot's considered very heavy-handed, and other people had been banned seemingly for life, people at the time even told this guy, forget about being a pro, mate. It'll never happen for you, right? It's banned you, you're done. But what happened was, because he was so prodigiously talented, he genuinely was one of the best prospects ever, a bunch of people, both in Europe and then eventually abroad, he eventually played for Cloud9, by the way, for many, many years. A bunch of people who had good teams who thought, well, if I could ever get this person unbanned, I'd basically have sort of got the top draft pick, as it were, in like of all the up-and-coming talent. They pursued this, and what they did was, they essentially said, let's see what the actual method for getting this guy unbanned is. So they went to Riot and they were sort of like, look, he hasn't killed anyone. So you must have, Riot crucially used to always claim, and this will be relevant to this discussion, they used to always claim that the game wasn't just about banning you because you're toxic. It was about rehabilitating you and, you know, making you a better person as a result of the game. They bragged about the developers that they do this, by the way. I think it's insanity, but okay.
Sounds
so
familiar.
when they would do this, essentially, these people who were surrounding this guy called their bluff. They were like, okay then, if your whole system's about rehabilitation and how you can, through the game, change who you are to be a positive force, what would he have to do? And so they gave him all these terms, like you have to go, I don't know, 6 months without getting chat restricted, or you have to not ever trash talk people again, or don't ever even apply. And essentially, here's what's clever, technicals. This is why it's going to be a contrast to this story that we're going to come up with Axe now. Is he jumped through every single hoop that they set. And it didn't matter if once you jumped through the first set of hoops, magically another set, because let's be real, they never thought you were going to do this anyway. They thought actually by saying 6 months, you're going to go, well, fuck it then. So because he did it, because they were telling him behind the scenes, the people in the teams, look, if you do this, you can be a pro player. So he did it. He did every single thing they asked. And essentially the premise goes, the punchline, at the end, even Riot realised, well, fuck, we've actually put ourselves in a corner. He's done everything we asked. Like, if that really did allow
rehabilitation. If we believe in rehabilitation, you got to go with it.
Yeah, there you go, Red. Probation stamped, you can go. And the reason I bring this up is, that is clearly not what happened in the Smash community, but they lied, and this is why I say it's malevolent. They lied that was possible. That redemption, I agree with Richard, the second you get blacklisted for any of this shit, anything political especially, by the way, mate, or in this case, as we're going to get to, you've like offended a celebrity that everyone has a fucking crazy parasocial relationship with. Oh, you are just done forever in that community. But because they pretended to this guy, who, by the way, as far as I can tell, a bit like the example I gave, was someone who cared about the game a lot. This was his identity, was the game, and being able to play and to compete. They told this guy, jump through 1 million hoops and maybe you could be unbanned one day. And as far as I can tell, not only did it appears to me they never planned to ban him. In fact, he was mass banned in a way I have never seen in an esport, even for people who've actually like fucked kids and done insane shit like that. And he was banned in a way where when he jumped through the hoops, I can't speak from technicals. I only know your video and outside stuff. But I get the sense that process of almost like 24/7 being tortured in some purgatory where I can never actually exit it to heaven. But I'm also not totally sent to hell where everyone pretends and goes, it's over for you, mate, don't even try. I feel like that had some psychological component potentially to what happened.
Absolutely.
So
it was the sense of hope. It was the sense of hope that they kept giving him. And he would state that he needed his friends back. because the context is he built a company around this game too to sell controllers. And since he was 12 years old until he was 30 and passed away, Melee was like the only thing he did for money, friends, and entertainment. So like psychologically, that's all he knew. They're telling him to go do something else. He's never experienced something else. And they're just like, oh, dude, just go do something else, whatever. Like, just go do something for like 6-8 months. It's whatever. To them, it's whatever. But to him, it was his passion in life. And these are the people who say they're empathetic. Like, you have to think of it from his perspective. And that it was just like, it was terrible to watch.
As far as I know, he jumped through every hoop, right? He apologized to the left and twat, but I always despised that fucker. But
like 8 times.
Yeah, he did it all.
And then he was conditionally unbanned for like a year, and they still didn't unban him. And they're like, oh, dude, you just had to wait like another couple weeks and you would have got fully unbanned. Like,
what was his crime? Tell
exactly. So let's start with because he did make basically what happened is Hax is an important figure within the Smash community. He's running his own events. He's an important personality. He's a good player,
innovative player.
And
would describe Hax.
Sure. And so when we get to the point of what actually happened to cause this indefinite ban in the first place, technicals, because it's not that he didn't do anything, right? It's what's gross about the story is that Hax did something that was perhaps questionable, but then what happened is he got banned, and then repeatedly, and as far as I can tell, I've read his apologies, I've seen like the content, very sincerely apologized for doing it, and then was permanently banned afterwards, which is the insane part of the story.
Right. So what happened is Leffen is kind of known as the villain of Melee or the God Slayer of Melee. Those are two of his nicknames. And he's known that because, one, he's really good at the game and he beat a lot of the long-standing, very successful players when he came onto the scene. But there's also a document called evidence.zip, which is a list of testimonies from people in the community that way back in 2013 got him banned from the country of Sweden, their Melee community. It got him banned for a year because he was bullying people with disabilities, like hearing disabilities. He was being an asshole to everyone in his community. Not everyone, but he was generally very combative and argumentative, and people didn't like that. So he got a ban for that. So evidence.zip 2 was a video that Hax made as one of those original people who made a testimony that got Leffen banned in the first place. He made a big video where he was like, essentially, Leffen hasn't changed. But it wasn't just that. He went to the extreme and started comparing Leffen to Hitler and totalitarian regimes, saying that he was using banning to kind of enact a regime. Very extreme political analysis and psychological analysis, where he said he was part of he had dark triad tendencies. So trying to like psychologically diagnose him. And that's what people had a problem with, was that very extreme categorization of Leffen, that he wasn't really, he didn't have the certifications to be saying all that stuff.
Sure.
But the basis of his criticism was accurate. If he just stopped there, if he was like, Leffen does this and that's bad, but then he would be like, and that's bad because Hitler also did this.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say,
okay.
He made some really extreme comparisons to like Nazism and Hitler that like were ridiculous for what he was saying.
Though about people getting bent out of shape about that is if you just think about the tone and tenor of rhetoric in America in general right now. Like Hitler is brought up every single fucking day. You know what I mean? Like, everyone is Hitler. Everyone you don't like is a Nazi. Everyone's Hitler. Well, what about this? That's a bit like Hitler. You know who else followed orders, don't you? Well, like what? You can't do without someone fucking reflexively bringing up fucking Hitler. It's become like some asinine point that really undercuts the importance of anything that you're trying to say. And so, look, it's dumb what he said, right? Like, I'll just go there for you. I remember watching the video and I was thinking, fucking hell, this ain't it, Chief. But
he compared his phone to the Death Note. It's like it was so bad that I feel like everyone understood that it was just a bad video. Yeah. I don't think anyone was like, orders received, Hax. I'm on my way.
By the way, I'm not saying this to make like a defense. I'm actually saying this a bit like you said when you did the characterization of people in the community that might get embroiled with messaging underage people. Isn't it implied though that again, I could be wrong with this. I'm remembering things from the video. Isn't it implied though that he at this time he already potentially had some sort of mental problem though that might have been causing this behavior? Or am I off based on that?
He said he had alcohol-induced psychosis, I think it was.
Right.
Yeah. So
which again does not excuse it. That is still unacceptable behavior. But I'm just painting it in like it wasn't like he just woke up to sunshine and think, I think I'll just say all this shit about Leffen one day. Like, there was potentially some unrest already in his character.
And
what set him off?
Point out Leffen is a fucking asshole as well. I mean, like, you know,
exactly. If people follow other games, if you think people like Idro are bad, this guy's like that times 100 because he's in a scene where he gets away with it more and the sponsors don't fuck you up as much.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about the documentary earlier. The guy who made that documentary was making another one, and then Leffen, he saw his part of that documentary that interviewed the victims from the first time he got banned, where he was bullying the guy with the hearing aid and making fun of people's financial situations, their mental health, all of that stuff. That's why he got banned. He saw that and he was like, dude, this paints me in such a bad light. You got to remove it. And then Samox was like, okay, I'll interview you, and then you can kind of, balance out all that criticism.
Fair.
So Hax was like, nah, this is rewriting history. That's what set him off on his drinking binge, his psychosis. And that's why it was a little over the top. But
it was,
genuinely, as one of the original people, he had the right to be upset, at least. But people didn't even give him that right. They're like, you shouldn't have criticized him at all.
Banning someone over making a video critique, like from an esports tournament, you have to understand, like, the world we come from, the threshold for what gets you banned is like, you have to do something fucking crazy outside of the game. You cheat in the game, you get banned. You break a tournament rule, you get banned. You'll lose a portion of your prize money. That all makes sense. But I'm talking about doing something behaviorally on, like, making YouTube content or whatever, getting you banned from a Counter-Strike event. I don't know what the threshold would look like for that. I don't know what
this way. I'll tell you a story from Richard's own past without making a big thing. One time, someone told Richard they would essentially knife him at an actual famous LAN event in the UK.
We had it recorded.
And that person was not banned for that because it was like, well, they're not really
Join the club,
rich.
Right,
that was the logic.
They had a recording, and basically it was a group of people, and the guy was going, right, well, what I'll do is I'll cause a scene and distract security, and then you can go up with the tool, and you can give him the fucking digs, and then he'll bleed out, and and no one will know who did it, right? And they did this on a recording, right? And I sent that recording to the tournament organizer and said, like, you should probably ban these people. They're, like, literally planning to murder a journalist at your event. And they just said, you know what would be easier? Maybe you don't come. So.
Yeah, see, here's my problem with stuff like that, because I have the same...
Squared that circle.
I mean, you got me. Yeah,
you need to, like, supersede their authority and go to the people that are hosting these people, because if they're not going to, like, govern their own people, then you need to, like, there's a higher authority here in the chain of command.
The problem with that is, I mean, look, I'm one of those fucking free speech pussies that gets mega squeamish about, like, when, put it this way, was I upset that was their decision? By the way, I went anyway, and the would-be murderers went, and of course they didn't do shit.
Nothing happened.
As recent events show us, it only takes one. It only takes one time. But anyway, I never liked. I think pressurizing sponsors has to be like some sort of like final last resort. Like, it's got to be something beyond the pale. Like, them making a decision about who can and can't attend their event, I'm not gonna jump the ladder. I'm not gonna go up.
I've gotten to the point.
It and speak to the manager.
I agree with you. I'm very, like, pro free speech as well. I wouldn't want to do something, but I've gotten to the point where it's like they let so much of this go by that they've shown them that it's cool to do that because they agree with them.
Yep.
So now it's actually radicalizing more people to keep doing that.
I agree with all of this, and I think, look, this is the test of your free speech principles. This is when you really find out how, like, will you go to bat for someone that's saying something you think is reprehensible? Or...
It's like incitement of violence. I've never categorized that as.
Yeah, I draw the line, but then again, what you have to remember is, going back to Hacks, they were implying that by comparing Leffen to Hitler, that in itself was an incitement to violence. And, and so is it? I mean, I think if you constantly say this person is Hitler, they must be stopped, probably someone is going to do something about it eventually. But if you say this guy behaved like Hitler in this one area, and here is a provable measurement of why that happened in a bad YouTube video talking about a checks notes Smash video game player, it's probably not an incitement to violence. And so,
Richard, if we're going to make that the precedent that just saying someone's a Nazi or Hitler means you get banned forever, get me pull out my list for esports, because I'm going to get a lot of you League of Legends motherfuckers done tomorrow.
Exactly.
Well, I get people that straight up say, I'm going to kill you. He should be jumped. Like, that kind of stuff.
That stuff is prevalent in the FGC too, bro. I mean, like, I talk to a lot of people about this shit. Is it James MK that's got the fucking pinned thread?
Yeah. He's got the whole thread.
He's a funny dude. I used to go back on his podcast way back in the day when the FGC was on E-League, because, you know, he was just like a fellow. He's even older than me. Just an old, chain smoking, hard drinking dude. So it was like, okay, cool. Like that's my kind of people. And he's been calling it out. And you're right. I mean, these aren't even incitement to violence. These are. I mean, this goes as far as to be like almost like a criminal conspiracy to attack people, right? You're openly saying at this event, I will attack you, you know? So I agree. That shit's all, you got to shut that all down. And I think it's crazy how many people agree with that shit.
So he does this, and what's so weird about this is that it is basically a community ban, and it's indefinite, right? There's no real sense that this is going to end. There's not.
That's another thing we should probably explain to people not from Smash, because in this game, I mean, the weird thing, actually, maybe you can explain it, Technicals. As far as I know, like an individual runs the tournaments or whatever. So Axe himself used to run tournaments, right? The locals or whatever the fuck. So if people don't know, people in esports, the ones we come from are run top down. So it's like the game developer bans you, or there's like 2 or 3 big, ESL or something like that. If they ban you, you're done. But in this case, essentially, this is why the hacks one's so notorious. There's a document where like every single individual who's ever going to run a tournament actively goes out of their way to say publicly like, you're banned, whether he's going to attend or not, right? Isn't it something like that? Am I off?
That's how they try to unify their decision, is they'll have signatories. So they'll have people who represent large tournaments, like what we'd consider the Super Bowl of events. Those kind of people will sign on so everyone follows suit. They kind of, they fall under heel, they follow the lead. What's funny is that after everything fell out with the hack stuff, those people actually went back to the document and removed all their names because everyone was calling them out.
Once he was dead, by the way, exactly.
Yeah,
once he was dead, they all conveniently deleted it, even though, by the way, think about it, guys, that wouldn't help him. He's not going to the event. They just did that to alter history, essentially, so it looked like they never did it ever, right? So
we have the
memory hole
archives.
shit. Yeah, and those people, if you ever brought it up, I noticed they were very hostile too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, but the problem is that there's no actual leadership, right? Technical. So nobody's actually willing to say and nobody was willing to say, oh, I'm going to be the first to unban him because of the perception that would result from the community. And at the end of the day, Hax's crime was basically attacking a member of the community who is extremely popular. I mean, Leffen is a big streamer, particularly by Smash or FGC standards. He's a major personality. And while you can argue, and I think that Hax's method of doing this was a little extreme and perhaps did justify some cooling off period, and it's really what he did next that's so surprising. So this happens, people get mad because Leffen is popular, and you would think at this point in time in Smash, somebody would have said, hey, remember how we had these other incidents of very famous and popular people? Maybe the famous and popular people in our scene sometimes have dark histories because that has been proven over and over and over again. Or is there something weird going on beneath the surface? Perhaps we should take allegations against our famous people, somewhat seriously. But they said, no, it gets shut down because of they refuse to engage with the substance of Hax's argument. They focus in on the fact that he was ridiculous and making these Hitler and Nazi comparisons. It is inappropriate to say that Leffen, a fucking video game player, is like Hitler. I mean, that's just ridiculous on his face.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but this results in this ban, and then it's indefinite, and Hax himself at this time starts producing very detailed apologies, saying that it wasn't appropriate, going on camera saying it, doing it on social media and saying it. And it just
how many times did he apologize? I'm guessing you must have a number in your mind.
I genuinely felt like he was groveling too. Beyond what you even should have been required to do.
Yeah.
It actually was sad at a point. I lost count. As far as video responses, it was probably anywhere between 4 or 8 times that he went on camera apologizing.
How many times, man? You know what I mean?
And
these were, by the way, these were not partial apologies. These are complete apologies.
Yeah,
saying,
absolute mea culpas.
I was wrong.
Yes, yeah.
I
apologize directly.
I realized I hurt Leffen, and I want to make good on this. I should not have done this. I understand, the ramifications of my action. All I'm asking is, can you please let me back into this scene that is my life?
Yep. And what's interesting is that the number one player, well, he's either number one or number two right now, Cody Schwab, he just released a document where he addressed all this stuff. And in it, there's a little nugget that a lot of people bypassed, but he said that he mediated with Leffen, and Leffen was saying that he didn't have a problem with the ban anymore. But that calls into question all of the statements that kept coming out that referenced Leffen's safety. And Leffen himself, after I made my video, accused me and Hacks of using alt-right Andrew Tate language and then compared us to crazy homeless people. So I'm wondering
after Hacks is dead, remember? This is after he's already dead.
Well, no. After I made my video to get him unbanned, that's what Leffen said.
Oh, right. That's what I'm... Okay.
So I'm wondering at what point is he cool with him getting unbanned? Because that just sounds like a lie to me. Yeah. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, look, it's worth saying, right? Put it this way, right? This is how I think about it, right? I have been attacked a lot down the years. I think that's probably an understatement. I've been the villain of the internet, at least the whole internet, by the way, not just esports, probably on 6 or 7 occasions. And it's horrible when you're in the fucking shitstorm, because there's no way to stop it happening, and you can only make it worse. You try and reason with people, that makes it worse. You can try and push back and hold your corner, makes it worse. You can go away, but then the anxiety about what are people saying in the absence of me not being able to check it and police it, that makes it worse. So there's no real way to win when that's happening. You just have to wait for everybody to get bored of kicking you in the ribs. That's it. That's how it works. But I will say this.
Also, Richard, as well as what you're saying there, it can actually even be a mistake to apologise too early. Yep. If they don't get their pound of flesh, mate, people need to see you bleed. Because one of the things I hate about mob culture is it isn't a mob like, right, let's hold this person to collective justice. It's like each individual person in the mob wants to kick you while you're down.
They want to kick you, and they want you to say, thank you, sir, can I have another, to each and every single one of them. That's what they want. That if you do that will probably stop it. But, I mean, it's impractical, because the queue for kickings is so long when you're talking about the whole internet and fandoms and subcultures, whatever. But anyway, I will say this: if somebody made a YouTube, and this has happened to me, funnily enough, if somebody made a YouTube video about me saying Richard Lewis is like Hitler for the following reasons, right? Also, my phone is Death Note. I would, and then I got a phone call from like PGL, tournament organizer I work with. And they said, Richard, we think that video is outrageous. We're going to ban that person from attending our tournaments for your safety. I'd go, nah, what the fuck you want about, blood? Like, you ain't got to do that at all. Like, don't worry about that. That's fine. That's his speech. Like, he can say that. He can say that. He can think that. Like, he's got to still be allowed to compete. That's what I would have done.
It's more entertaining that way.
Time. Yeah.
I would have loved to see, because in Melee and Smash, there's the culture of a salty sweet. It's where two players who have beef, they get together and they do an exhibition match for like whatever X amount of money, or for credibility, for a skin color, whatever, like whatever your custom color is. Yep. We could have done something like that, and it would have helped promote the game, promote the culture, and inject even more of an audience and money into the community. But these people are so anti-growth,
Wouldn't it even have been a layup? Because surely Leffen would win, and then he'd get his victory, and he'd get to be like, I got my revenge.
Well, Hacks was actually pretty good too. He was like, at a certain point, he was top 10. So he probably could have put up a fight. But either way, it would just be entertaining. And I feel like that's something lacking in FGC and Smash, is that people want to get their opposition banned more often than not than to settle it in the game that they share their love for and the passion for.
You want to know what's hilarious, right? Like, I've talked about this a few times, but I agree with everything you've said, right? Like, we had that rivalry in Street Fighter with Wolf Crone and K-Brad. And we had them on E-League, and we did a whole segment around it, and it was like WWE style. We brought the security guard, that, by the way, was always there. We put him on camera just to say, security's on standby. These two guys hit each other. We got called racist.
Really?
People like Ultra David called it inappropriate and said,
what?
Because they were both black competitors, and the security guard, by the way, was black. I'm not a police officer.
That's so infantilizing.
Yeah, they said
to my people. I can't believe you'd say that.
We were giving a pro-police argument and implying black people couldn't control themselves.
It's like you invited Derek Chauvin. Like, what the?
For real, dude. And like the mad part was, All of the fans loved it at that moment, and you can go and look at the Reddit threads from the clips where, like, K-Brad, I think it was K-Brad was saying, this guy does this and this guy does that. And Malik Forte, right, also black. Everyone involved in this segment is black, and it was and we were racist for airing it, apparently. Mental. Anyway, Malik, who's great, he leant across the wolf crone and said, "What do you think about what K-Brad said?" And this is when we got nearly in trouble with standards and practices, and he just said, "Who gives a fuck?" Right? And he just said it, and it was hilarious. And
I think I've seen that too. That was iconic. That was
like a massive viral clip. It was so good for Street Fighter. It was so good for the FGC. Everyone was like, "Holy shit, this is like ESPN level production, but WWE style trash talk. This is fantastic." And then, then the people that are supposed to be curators of the FGC wanted to politically virtue signal and said it was racist. And then everybody said, "Oh shit, the commentators are saying it's racist." So, we had black people in the writers' room when we came up with the bit. And it's so so crazy.
It's just anti-content.
Yeah.
We
we didn't go to Wolf Crone. You've just swore on air, and now standards and practices are fucking calling us because we're not allowed to say the F word. We might get fined for it. You're banned. We didn't do that. We said to him, "Don't worry about it. That's fucking hilarious. We'll tank the fine if need be."
Yeah.
One that was kind of a little bit controversial was when the guy threw the toilet paper at the commentators, but that was. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that one.
That was a Tekken thing.
Yeah. So with in Hax's case, what ends up happening, right, is that he gets indefinitely banned. He attempts to get unbanned many times by saying, you could not have scripted, I think, his apologies better than what he gave. He seems like he's an intelligent guy who is just off the rails for a little bit, and he recognized that he probably shouldn't have done this, and et cetera, right? Mm-hmm. He was thorough in his apologies. And so what ends up happening is he gets put basically on probation. How many years later after his ban? It was 2?
It's a year and a handful of weeks.
Okay, so he gets put on...
that he was successfully on probation.
No. How long was he banned for prior to his probation?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. So he's literally just on an indefinite ban with no track to any kind of release because, again, this is a bunch of community organizers or people who nobody wants to take responsibility for the situation. They all collectively agreed. And by the way, what that means is somebody came up with this idea to ban him and then strong-armed a bunch of other people behind the scenes. And they were afraid of saying probably something else, or they agreed due to the community sentiment because Leffen is popular. Okay, we're not going to do this, or we're going to ban him at the time because of Leffen's reputation. And so what happens is, the next step is they put him on probation. What does this mean, Technicals? What does this mean for him?
Double secret
probation. It means a couple things. One, he was not allowed to speak about his ban publicly. Otherwise, that would be in violation of his probation. He was not allowed to message organizers about his ban, or that would be in violation of his probation. So basically, he just had to shut up. He wasn't allowed to talk about it anymore. And they're like, "Oh, well, this wasn't actually about his speech. This was just to make sure that he didn't, fall back on the thing that got him banned originally." And the thing that got him banned originally, again, was him being super extreme with his criticism, not the fact that he was criticizing Leffen. So this actually morphed into a ban that violated his free speech for no reason. It wasn't even it wasn't bad. Everyone knows Leffen is an asshole. Mang0 knows he's an asshole. Leffen knows he's an asshole. Everyone in Melee knows he's an asshole. So why, when Hax says it, it's a problem? That's what I had a problem with. And when they made that statement, everyone was like, "Dude, what the hell are we doing here?" And it still went through for some reason. I don't know. These people, they don't stand up for their own community.
So how did he violate his probation and end up with the permanent ban?
So the conditional unban from New York tournaments that allowed him kind of a little leeway to go to other bigger events around the United States lasted over a year. It lasted over a year, And we're all supposed to believe that they were all agreeing that at some point he was just about to be unbanned, like finally, after a whole nother year of not being allowed.
That's why I say the thing about the league play, because to me, mate, this almost vibes with the idea that he took it too literally of like, you're banned for a year. To me, them saying you're banned for a year, we're all doing it, is like, you're basically banned forever, just leave, just go already. And actually, to me, I'd even say that is a massive feather in his cap. The idea he kept trying for years to go, he must love the game, mate. No one does. It's like what happened with Steel, who was banned for match fixing and Counter-Strike. The others all left, mate. They went to other games or they stopped playing or they said, I don't care anymore. Steel, to this day, I mean, the joke is now he wouldn't play because he's not a professional level player anymore, but he actually kept trying to play in the non-banned part of the scene for years. So it just proved that, like, it has to be passion. You're not doing that for the grift. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's no grift there. You're losing money. You're losing all your opportunities in life. Yeah, go on.
At a certain point, he got desperate because it had been 3 years at this point, and like one of the biggest events, Genesis X, was coming up. So he made a ban appeal video. They said that violated their rules, their conditions, because he talked about his ban.
Even this part seems like cruel and unusual punishment. You can't even talk about what we're doing.
Right. And by the way, he apologizes in this video.
In the video, he apologized, but they banned him and then said it was because they can't stand by someone who's going to continue to violate these clauses that they put in place, and that he was inciting death threats against Leffen, which is not true. There's no evidence of this anywhere. Leffen consistently cited death threats and the safety of his family to skirt criticism from my video. He did that to TK Breezy. He was like, how dare you agree with technicals? You don't care about my family. And it's like, what are you talking about, dude? No one is going to Sweden to do anything to you over this stupid bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, even if there were vague death threats that he has not produced, and like, first off, like, wouldn't you call that out? If you were getting death threats from people, wouldn't you be contacting these same organizers saying, hey, can we ban these people from the tournaments because they're a threat to my health? Wouldn't you be, reporting them to the authorities? By the way, I can just tell you straight up that death threats in video games have been taken extremely seriously by the United States government in the past. In fact, you know, we've discussed this on other shows. The crazy Bjergsen stalker was in fact banned forever from America for these kind of threats. Right. So it's not like there isn't an enforcement mechanism that credible death threats are not taken seriously by the American authorities. So
they're not credible. They're like low tier god gifts. And then they're like, oh, this is a death threat.
Yeah. And so, for example, most of the Smash tournaments, Leffen is Swedish, but most of the Smash tournaments are in America. He is weird for being a European player. He is unusual. And so this would have been, if there were death threats, I would have to imagine odds are they were coming from Americans or coming from people who would be controlled by American authority at events in America. So, like, I don't think, there has been previous evidence that people have been literally just ejected from the country forever and given lifetime bans, and tournament organizers have taken them seriously. So it is hard to believe that in the absence of any evidence and also the mechanisms that are in place to prevent these things from happening, that it would be impossible to get these death threats seriously dealt with, right?
Mm-hmm. He cares about his safety so much that he's going to trust a decentralized group of gamers that run tournaments to assure his safety.
Right. And also, by the way, Hacks was never the one who is the physical danger. No. So why are we banning Hacks in this particular instance?
One of the statements from the local organizer that made the conditional unban and then eventually permanently banned him for an apology video, essentially, he said, if your consistent actions have consistent consequences, meaning the following actions from what you're doing, not what you're actually doing, just whatever happens every time you do something, then you should be punished for those actions. And they're blaming him for anonymous people that may or may not exist.
And my take on seeing the reactions of the tournament organizers and, like you say, deleting their names afterwards, it almost feels like if they were to unban him collectively, they would have to admit that they made a mistake in the first place and that their reaction was way too extreme, at least for the length of time. Like 2.5 years? Are you joking? Yeah. Like, okay, 6 months, fine. Like, cool off, apologize, whatever, right? But 2.5 years into a probation. So what, we're 3.5 years
into a year-long probation.
Yeah, we're 3.5 years into this shit at this point in time. And like,
let's just be fucking real. The purpose of the punishment was torture. Like, there's no other explanation for it. I mean,
right.
Like,
but my point is, by unbanning him, you have to admit that that's what it was. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I went through the exact same thing with that whole League of Legends bullshit where they wrote a fucking hostage note to my editor at the Daily Dot with a list of demands I had to conform to, which included not talking about the fact that they'd banned my work predicated on lies. Right. And it was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, fuck you.
You have to submit to the narrative and you have to submit to them. And if you ever step out after that, they now have the pass to ban you for life because they told you ahead of time.
Right. And what's
it's like
crazy
once
is
they put their foot on your neck, you can't get out.
He did submit. That's what's so insane about all of this. And so they use what is effectively an apology video in order to then justify the permanent ban. And this is where this stuff gets really dark because he at this point in time, like this is like the end, as you have set up, Tech. Like, this was his life, his passion for many years. The hope is gone now. Like, he was tortured by the hope for 3.5 years, and now that hope is entirely extinguished. And his next step is to, unfortunately, jump in front of a train, which then he loses a leg but lives somehow. And is in a recovery process with a prosthetic. So,
and you know what they said to that? They said because what he needed wasn't Melee, that they weren't going to unban him after that happened. They were like, if we submit now, that would set a bad precedent for people who threaten to like harm themselves or commit acts of self-harm. That was their explanation for not even after all of that, clearly torturing him to the point where he attempted suicide, that they still couldn't unban him because it's not what they thought he needed.
So by the way, again, as an outsider, I even feel like another phenomenon I've noticed happen here is they have to maintain that he is the devil at all times because their behavior has been ratcheted up to 11 and if it ever is seen to come down, like you say, then it would actually call into question the past things they've done.
Yes.
So it's why to this day I feel like people have put up a brick wall. That they can never acknowledge this, they can never acknowledge their partner, they can never acknowledge that he apologized.
It's kind of like
and he did all the steps.
There's the idea that it's like, oh, what happened to him was bad, and we could do better, like we should do better. But also, you're not going to see a single person called out for how they actually handled it. So we know that it was messed up, but also it's no one's fault, and don't blame anyone. How does that work? It's
the classic esports bureaucracy move, right? Like, you guys are used to seeing it in Counter-Strike and from Riot with League of Legends, with Valorant. But in any case, so we're at a point now where this man has lost a limb, and this is not the part of the next part is not the fault of the tournament organizers, but it just goes to show how messed up this whole situation was, and how I think Hax's his psyche was getting kind of attacked by all sides. And this is where some alleged friends of his began to gaslight him in horrible ways. Keep in mind, he is recovering from a suicide attempt in which he lost a leg by throwing himself in front of a train. Okay? So what were people doing at this point in time? His friends from this community.
Right. So there was a moderator from his server that was for his company where he sold controllers. He would give tech support and stuff like that. One of the moderators who helped him by doing all the tech support for him, he pretended, well, it wasn't, I think it was him, I can't remember, one of those people, either way, they all supported it and thought it was hilarious. So one of those people pretended to be a spy for Leffen, and that Leffen paid them $10,000 to get dirt on him to make sure that he stayed banned forever. And it threw him into a whole mental episode.
This is a joke, by the way. There was no, they conspired to, again, he has just attempted suicide and lost a leg, and they are also making fun of the fact that he lost a leg to him and planning raids on his Twitch channel to antagonize him about
to make fun of his amputated leg. Yeah.
To make fun of his amputated leg. I mean, guys, it's almost unbelievable, this stuff. And then they conspire together for the lulz to trick him to say that they were paid by Leffen to be spies. So at this point in time, this guy's thinking that anybody could be fucking, and it sounds.
By the way, all of the things that were meant to be happening to Leffen, right? Remember, it was Hax that was meant to have fomented the abusive hate group that was bullying poor little Leffen. right? Like, just not what happened at all. I mean, by the way, there was plenty of reasons prior to this for people to dislike Leffen. I mean, he used to get a lot of shit from fucking Hungry Box fans and stuff, right?
Yeah.
There was beef there. And it's like, it's crazy to think of like how callous you have to be to, okay, we've driven someone to suicide. They've survived it. That kind of lets us off the hook a little bit. It could be nice now. Nah, actually, it's kind of hilarious that he's now permanently disabled as a result of that.
And also, we're going to, like, the people he thinks are his friends are going to now play a sick joke on him where they pretend to, like, this is his support network, right?
Yep. Like
and they're going to pretend that they are spies for this person who he clearly dislikes and who has had a major effect on his life one way or another, even though, he started it in a way.
They were also sending him fake screenshots to give him hope that he was going to get unbanned, just stuff like that. It's like, I can't even imagine.
And what's crazy is
that callous.
Yeah, go watch Technical's videos because he has all the receipts, guys. This is all in Discord conversations from these people. It's not alleged.
It wasn't like a clandestine hate group. Like, they were just doing this out in the open. Like, and nobody stopped it or intervened or said anything. I mean, by the way, as well, and this is why I have no problem saying, the people who banned him, tortured him, gave him false hope with a probationary bullshit, all of those tournament operators that came out after he passed, after he finally succumbed to his complications from his injuries, they absolutely have blood on his hands. You may as well have just shot him in the head, as far as I'm concerned. I don't give a fuck. I will say that. Like, you can say it's regrettable, you couldn't have foreseen it, but you could have come out at any time and stopped this. You could have stopped the moment before this. You could have come out after the suicide attempt and gone, this has gone too far. You didn't have to capriciously ban him again for just talking about his ban. Why would that ever be a term of condition of a ban? I can't talk about it. Like, what?
He made endless posts towards the end, around March of this year, where he was begging to be let back because he needed his friends. So what essentially happened was he was so depressed that he was staying locked up in his room, basically rotting away, drinking like every day, and he wasn't taking care of his amputated leg, and the infection spread. The alcohol wasn't helping, and I think that's inevitably what led to what happened.
Yeah,
it's just so depressing every time I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, and also as well, like you say, I mean, not even a quick death, like not even some sort of quick, merciful death, like actually death by infection from an amputation, because you have to take constant medication to make sure it, heals properly. You're constantly rubbing and chafing if you use a prosthetic. Anyone who's got a family member or themselves has a prosthetic limb, about the complications that come from them. They all look cool when you're watching like a fucking, Twitter 30
His mom sent me the 5-minute video of him using his prosthetic too.
Yeah. I mean, and look, on top of all of this, like, think about just the major adjustment and changes you have to make to your life when you've lost a limb, right? Like, and you're going through all of that, and there wasn't anyone that wanted to show him any grace whatsoever.
They were giving him conditions. They're like, you need to go to college. You need to show us that you've, like, gone to, like, college, or you've done something else. You need to go to, like, therapy. Giving him extra conditions on top of what already happened.
By the way, this is a 30-year-old man.
Yeah.
So it's not like, we're not talking about a teenager. We're not. This is an adult man that they're trying to do this to.
Painful. I know it might be painful for the family, Fax's family, but you've got to litigate against these people. That's my gut feeling. I think these people are monsters. I think.
I mean, you could imply their behavior played a role in both his death and the defamation, loss of earnings, a million factors.
Yeah, there's so many different.
Loads of civil cases.
That's what I'm saying. There's a very. I mean, this is my opinion, not a lawyer, but I have seen similar things where, let's say, groups of people have bullied or harassed someone and they've committed suicide, and then you are able to correctly sort of establish the mechanism through which this happened. So, for instance, we've got a case going on in the country right now where tech companies are being sued by a grieving father over content that was served up to his daughter. She was able to access suicide information without any, without it doing any sort of protective aspect to it. There's no way that there isn't something here that could be explored through legal ramifications.
It's so new to me. I've dealt with defamation. I've dealt with the child predation. I've never dealt with wrongful death cases. So
brother, trust me. I mean, look, I'm an old soak, and I've been reporting for a long time. You have to just delve into this stuff and try and intuit your way through it without the proper training. But I guarantee you, I don't know if this is a content idea or whatever. And I also don't. You can understand why a grieving family wouldn't want to mire themselves in litigation and the costs of a lawyer and all this other stuff, and have to essentially relive everything that happened. I'm sure it's very traumatizing for his mother, who was very engaged in his career. But I would certainly say, like, if you interviewed like a lawyer about this, and said this guy was bullied, then he attempted suicide, then he was disabled, then he succumbed to injuries because he got depressed because they were still bullying him after he attempted suicide, and we can identify these people that contributed to it. I don't know. I reckon a lawyer might have some thoughts about that and the possibilities of the suit.
I should definitely start looking into, because I was considering the whole wrongful termination. I think his mom was at some point too, but I'm not sure. She's like flip-flopping on it. But I would 100% want to see some sort of justice in this situation, because even after the fact, like, it seems almost no one has taken accountability.
They have just faded. This is the problem I have with it. They've just faded. Like, again, this retconning of history. They're just deleting posts, like nothing happened. The dead,
just don't talk about it. Just don't talk about it.
The dead can't speak for themselves. Every time you advocate for Hacks and what he went through, people shout you down and say it's a grift or say it isn't true. No matter how many times you present the receipts to them, the narrative is that Hacks was crazy, he bullied Leffen, he got banned, he couldn't handle the ban, tried to kill himself. Well, what can we do about that?
Didn't also Reddit mods remove threads and do that moderation shit?
Yeah, they locked, they deleted threads.
Yes. So he was also doxxed, by the way. Hacks in the middle of this was doxxed by the community exposing legal documents with his address. But yes. I want to talk, Tech, quickly about the funeral, which was streamed and attended by yourself and many other prominent members of the Smash community, and then also the fallout that happened around Hax's mother, who the people are trying to discredit her now. She took over Hax's socials.
She addressed the video part, by the way, like what the response to the video was too, because there's the other problem, Monty. You could maybe, if you were the most tenuously argued person of all time, claim like, well, I didn't really know the full scope of it. Your video nails it all, mate. It's not even some like editorialized piece. Nope. It's actually a piece that includes all the things he did wrong and all the times he fucked up and all the things he did that were questionable. So that's the other thing I thought was so, essentially to me, I know people love to use this like truth nuke term. Now that was a truth nuke, mate. You just put it all together. You put it all together in a compelling manner, all the evidence, as much video, even though this is probably won't get you copyright strike, all the video evidence you could find of it all, etc. I would have thought if anything could ever actually turn the tide on what people thought publicly, it would be that. But as I say, as far as I know, it was like suppressed, removed, people attacked.
It was trending towards 1 million views easily before the privacy complaint came in and the takedown. So I had to actually contact my manager, because I have a managing company that I work with, and they have a YouTube rep. And they stopped all these privacy complaints from just taking down my video. And Asmongold at one point said he was going to react to it. That would have helped it kind of regain that momentum, but he never actually did.
Now, we take our privacy very seriously here at the Four Horsemen, and that's why we use ExpressVPN. You guys should be aware that incognito mode doesn't really mean that it's totally private. Your ISP is still getting all of that information, and Google has recently settled a $5 billion lawsuit after being accused of secretly tracking users in incognito mode. The way to be actually secure and private is to use ExpressVPN. That will prevent your ISP from selling your data, from other companies getting access to what you're looking at, and you may not want people to be knowing what you're looking at. It's also very useful if you want to use your existing subscriptions like Netflix to access content that may be available in different countries, but not in your own. For example, you might guys not be aware of this, but if you have a Disney Plus subscription, you may want to think about using it in South Korea, where I live, because in South Korea, Disney Plus also has access to all of Hulu's content, because Disney and ABC and ESPN and Hulu are all owned by Disney. So with the absence of Hulu in Korea, all that content just offered in English on Disney Plus instead. So there's a tip for you guys to get access to content that you might already be paying for with one of your subscriptions. So incredibly, incredibly useful. It's also really easy to use. All you do is have an app on your computer or running in the background of your phone. It's literally one button that you push. I always have it on my phone now because I'm using public Wi-Fi. And so I just find it easier, and I can't even notice the speed difference between having the VPN on and off. You can stream in HD with zero buffering, and it's the #1 rated VPN service by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. So not only that, like I said, you could save money. Instead of renting that movie online, you could probably just find it in a different country on a streaming service you're already paying for. So can save you money right there. So protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/horsemen, plural, MEN. That's expressvpn.com/horsemen to find out how you could get up to 4 extra months free. expressvpn.com/horsemen.
That's that crazy.
Yeah, and so what was the his funeral? How did that go? Because there was a lot of the people there who were the same people who were pretending to be friends and then saying that they were lying to him about being agents of Leffen and like all this ridiculous shit that was going on, and his mom also getting attacked. What's the story with the kind of end of the hacks controversy?
It was a beautiful service. The director, he actually had TVs and consoles from his own attic that he brought in so people could play Smash while we were kind of just, walking around waiting for the service to start. There was cupcakes with his different character icons with the colors that he used when he played. There were sandwiches. And I was able to talk to a lot of people that usually I don't have that one-on-one interaction because they don't like to interact with me because I'm also seen as a pariah. And, we were able to meet some common ground. And I had some really long, needed conversations with people. What I didn't understand, I only had an idea of this group chat that was kind of messing with him beforehand. I didn't see the full screenshots and get confirmation until after. So I actually talked to some of those people. And it was an open format. Originally, the director was like, me and Hungrybox were going to decide who was cool to come up and talk, but we never got that kind of organization going. So he just opened the floor to anyone. So these people are just coming up, giving whatever little speech, and then sitting back down. I had no idea that one of the people that went up wanted to punch me the whole time. And that guy grabbed my hat after Mewtwo King threw it and tried to hide my hat. This beanie that I'm wearing right here. He tried to hide my hat. And then later went on Twitter talking about how he wanted to assault me the whole time I was giving my speech.
Jeez.
So it's like,
by the way,
kind
here's another. I don't know if you were explicit about this, but essentially people attended this funeral who were actively hostile to hacks and you.
Yes.
Totally inappropriate moment to do such a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, he was such a great beacon. And then you go on their account and you can see how they were also talking shit about him, justifying him being banned for life and the situation that he was put through. Meanwhile, they're looking at his corpse and, shedding these crocodile tears. So it all just is so unreal to see happen in real time.
The thing with his mother as well genuinely shocked me. If people don't know, before this episode, I even confirmed with technicals because I had that moment of am I the one on the crazy pills here? Because essentially, since Hacks died, his mother took over using his Twitter account and even said many times, I'm his mother, this is who I am, etc. And she wouldn't just use the account. She would actually tweet about this topic. She would reply to people and give them comment, etc. And essentially, there's a contingent of really, I think, mentally ill people in the scene who have essentially just harassed her constantly, including denying that she even is his mother and that this is someone else who has a cat. The lengths these people have gone to, genuinely, the real joke about all this is they talk about the danger Hacks present to Leffen. This is the danger this fucking community presents to the people within the community. Someone's mother, mate. They haven't done anything to do with this.
Even if you're upset, just ignore her. Just let her get it out of her system. That's what you do with grieving people. I don't know what in their head clicks to where they're like, I need to go out of my way and attack this person.
Yeah. I mean, also, but the level of the attack was crazy. It was how dare you use his Twitter account? I think that's where it started. Then there was all this like speculation about whether it was their mother or not, that it was actually some of his friends. And it was wild. And like you said, I mean,
think what created a lot of confusion is
after she's lost her son is fucking beyond like
what created some of the confusion about who owned the account is because she had some people over at her house, and then one person, Arturo, he tweeted from her from the account as himself. So they're like, wait, who really owns this account? It's like, no, that was a one-off tweet. They're at her house, and she's handed him the phone. I did not like that post that he made because it was kind of a slight towards his own enemies while using my dead friend's account, which I think is an entirely inappropriate time to do that. You should not be calling out your haters on a dead man's account. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah. It was just the whole thing from start to finish is pretty much like I'm trying to think of anything that's like as bad across the totality of esports. I've seen some really horrific cases of like cyberbullying. I've seen, for instance, I've seen people like using nudes to like control people, and obviously abuse cases that we talked about with the Me Too stuff. But to like bully someone to the point of suicide, take everything they care about in their life away from suicide, recognize and acknowledge you're doing that. They commit suicide. They don't actually commit suicide. They attempt it, survive. There's a wonderful chance here. Like, everyone got a second chance there to go, holy shit, we can totally turn this. Again, I feel like I'm saying this every week in America. It's crazy. There was a real chance to turn the temperature down on the whole fucking thing. Hacks, we're sorry. The ban was capricious and cruel. We're going to allow you to come back. Please, rehabilitate. All the best of luck. Could have done a fundraiser, right? Helped him get like a cool prosthetic limb, something like that, right? We could all come together. I mean, by the way, if you want to make yourself look like an insta-good guy, even if it's totally fake, Leffen can come in and say, right, guys, we've all gone too far now, come on. This is all getting silly. Like, none of these things happened. Like, you just let this guy die. You just killed him. Like,
it's the lack of human response to him losing a leg. I was like, surely he gets back now, right? And they somehow, in their mind, justified everything that happened, including him losing his leg. And at that point, I knew there was no hope.
By the way, I know what you mean. The way you phrased it, how they responded as to why he doesn't get unbanned, is beyond absurd. It's almost like, well, we don't want to make it seem like you could just get your leg chopped off and get back in. Like, pretty much talking about.
Pretty good reason
listen
to show
your
some
words
humanity.
you're saying. I know. Listen to the words you're saying out loud. You are saying
for a
that
video
like
game.
That's a sane
for
concept.
a video game, it's worth it to them. It's worth it for their like made up standard precedent or whatever.
What is like? I mean, surely the community. There's got to be elements in it can't just be you, right? There's got to be people tracking the people that did this and what they're doing next, and like you boycott their shit, right? You don't go to their tournaments. You tell
there
sponsors.
There are some factions. There's a very silent majority as well.
Yeah.
Like I'll have people message me who agree, but they just know that the people in power don't agree with them. So even if they spoke up, they'd just be putting a target on their back.
I have one person to ask you about technicals. As far as I know, and mad respect to this guy, I don't even know him beyond. Again, I only know the names of esports because they're champion players. Mewtwo King, one of the original greatest players of all time, but who admittedly been inactive for a long time. He actually is one of the only people I've seen who didn't just go to bat, mate. This guy went to bat a bunch of times for this topic,
They slandered him too,
and
for
they've
it.
ham on him as well.
Called him a grifter.
They were trying to dig up some old video of him saying like an inappropriate thing ages ago with a friend.
Literally probably like 15 years ago, they show a clip of him with his friend joking around, and they're like, "Look at Mewtwo King. Don't listen to him. He's not credible." And it's like,
was he actually one of the only ones who did it though? I mean, he's the only famous person I saw, but I saw he was kind of going to bat a few times.
He was one of the biggest ones. There was also Simple Flips, who's a big YouTuber. There was Omni, who made a few comments on it, just saying we need to kind of chill out and just all enjoy and play the game. So yeah, there were a few people talking about it. There were people in his community as well that were against this, and it was still allowed to take place, and no one's taking accountability.
By the way, if I had to predict, I think I've been to enough rodeos. The response to this video will be, "You're grifting again. We're all grifters from we're outside. We only came for the drama. We didn't care about hacks. No one cares about him. It's just all about it." It'll be the same
justice for my friend, dude. That's that's all I want. Is just justice for him.
I think the reason why the topic resonated with us, again, as I said, I mean, I'm an older guy now, and I worked in several positions where I've got a direct duty of care to young adults, and it's horrifying to think that people are gonna like blindly stumble into like this digital space, and there's these like really poisonous elements that they might not be aware of until it's too late. And if you're gonna bully someone beyond a suicide attempt, like I don't know, man. Like it's such a horrifying case that it's got to be highlighted by more people. And in fact, if there's one, and it's no comfort to anybody, but if there's one benefit, if there's one silver lining that comes from highlighting this stuff and really peering into it, it's that you can apply this as as a model for what not to do in every other single competitive space. That this was uniquely awful. This was uniquely horrifying. That everybody at every stage failed someone like so badly. And now that they're dead, they simply want to just, okay.
No lessons have been learned. Nothing's changed.
Again, I'm sorry to bring this up on this episode, guys, but it's like, I'm seeing a lot. Obviously, there was a person killed recently, a political figure in America. And people have been saying, delete the videos, remove those videos.
Oh, definitely not.
Like what no. Like delete the Zapruder film? What are we talking about here? Like,
we need to know what can happen.
Yeah,
it's really important to have this on record.
Go and look at it, because it is hard not to. And if that doesn't trigger an empathetic response, you're fundamentally broken inside.
Yes.
And it's the same with this. Like, people are saying, right, okay, look, everyone fucked up on this. Let's just fold Hax's memory away for now. Let's just forget about him. That was a bad one, right? We can all agree. Sorry,
let's take down text video and for privacy concerns,
and delete any threads.
I delete any threads, and like all this does is perpetuate the bad faith actors within this entire thing. Like, why are we trying to protect these people, and why are we attacking the people? It's not like Technicals was coming out with, like we said, the unsubstantiated allegations. You show all the receipts, Technicals. Like, people
I always show the receipts.
I know, but it's like there's just this group chat of people gaslighting him, and there's a list of people on this ban, and it's all this.
They all love that too.
They'll available.
They'll pick and choose when they like my work. They're like, oh, it was great that he exposed the whole group chat stuff. I didn't quite like the part where he was exposing me, though. It's like, of course you didn't. Of course you didn't like the part where I criticized you with citations. Yeah. No one likes getting criticized.
Two quick things here. One of the reasons why I also think it's so important to still talk about this, and by the way, that video lasts forever on the internet, I hope it's always up, is because actually, as far as I can tell, zero mechanisms have been put in place to ensure this doesn't happen to the next hacks. And I will invoke something, which is essentially, this is one reason why I do some of the things I do. Because one of the reasons why I am extremely guarded around, for example, young men saying something stupid and having their whole life banned away from them and treated like this is because I think, if I think of the case of Hacks, he was a famous individual. He was actually like a community figure. Yeah. This is someone who had a lot going for him.
A fringe player.
What if you were the 18-year-old autistic kid who just stumbled into the scene, knew nothing about it, fucked up immediately, and then you're going to get all this with no hope of ever coming out? By the way, your story will never even be told. And if we haven't changed any of the mechanisms and no one was punished, then what is not to stop this happening again? Yeah. Surely it will happen again. The question is just when. And actually, I know what you mean, Richard. If he hadn't have died in the end, people would still be doing this now, and they'd even go, it's not like he's dead, mate. He could just go on with his life. Well, now he is dead. So what now, brother? Yeah. What now that we've raised the stakes to as high as they possibly go? What now? What do we do in this community? Do we just go, I hope it doesn't happen again? Because that is not acceptable. It is going to happen again, maybe on a smaller scale, but that is one thing I do have a massive concern, because I do think people think the fact that he is dead means, oh, well, close the chapter on that. No, open that motherfucker up and let's audit this. Yes. And we're Monty. These people should be exposed and it should be known forever. And by the way, are you ready? Unlike you twats, I will allow you redemption. You just have to do your mea culpa. You do your video where you explain why you tortured this guy psychologically, why nothing he ever did would have been good enough, why you fell in line with every scumbag. By the way, some of those it will turn out with themselves fucking messaging underage kids and all sorts of shite. And then also, one last thing, we can bridge to this if you want, guys. I'd also love to know, after all that, after you've scrutinized this guy with a purity spiral to the nth degree in some struggle session that lasts half a decade, why you can then work with the Saudis in Saudi fucking Arabia. I'd love to know that answer. Please give me that answer, moral arbiters of the scene.
Yep. Absolutely, man. And
then the case with Mang0.
Yeah, and then here we are.
We'll talk about that. Now, you guys know Ridge for some excellent modern design, as you can see here with my carbon fiber Ridge wallet. But they've got a brand new product that I think you guys are going to really like, and that is the new 5-in-1 power bank. And what's cool about this is that it offers many, many different ways to charge. So if you're on the go, it has up to 3 full cell phone charges in it. It is MagSafe compatible, so it'll charge wirelessly your iPhone or your Apple Watch. Plus, it has built-in Lightning and USB-C cables. So a ton of additional ways to charge. You can just magnetically attach it to the back of your iPhone to give it a little bit of extra juice. It's available in a variety of colors, including orange, olive, and matte black. And it has 20 watts of power for quick charging. So if you're looking for a modern charging solution, you've got one of those brand new iPhones that was just released, this is an excellent product for you. It means you don't have to carry around a bunch of extra cables because they're already built in directly to the device. So you only have one thing to pack and 5 different ways to power it. You can find Ridge's power bank at Best Buy, or our listeners can get 10% off at ridge.com by using code HORSEMAN, that's singular, M-A-N, at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use code HORSEMAN and you're all set. After your purchase, they will ask where you heard about them. Please support the Four Horsemen and tell them we sent you guys. You can get some modern technology, easy way to charge on the go. That is the Ridge power bank. So guys, you think that wasn't bad enough? And I was just in disbelief when, watching your video tech. I'm like, surely this can't be this stupid and this bad. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And let's put it out there right now.
One?
We're not going to be making an equivalence between the hacks incident and the Mang0 incident, because clearly the hacks incident is significantly worse than the Mang0 incident.
Mm-hmm.
Mang0, I've met Mang0 personally. I know a lot of people who have been around Mang0. Mang0 is not the same bad faith actor that we have discussed with many other of the people that we've talked about in the Smash scene. He is not on that level. Let's be clear. You should not say, well, Mang0 is just as bad as these other incidents, but it is another incident that happened immediately in the wake of Hax's death. And what happened was, if you guys are unaware, so who is Mang0? Mang0 is one of the greatest Smash players of all time. He has been active within this scene for decades at this point in time. He spent 10 years. I think he was the longest serving player on Cloud9's roster.
I think he is. I think so.
Mm-hmm. He's not anymore. He was dropped by Cloud9, which is crazy, because Mang0 and Cloud9 were like this. They were so tight. Like, this was a huge brand alignment for Cloud9. They built a lot of their identity off of Mang0, who is not only a very good player, but a very popular streamer.
It was 11 years long, apparently, Monty. 11 years he was.
And by the way, he was signed, I think, in 2014, which was in the wake of the 2013 release of the Smash Brothers documentary, which he's a part of. And so Cloud9 was one of the orgs that was kind of, drifting in the wake of the explosion of popularity around the personalities within the Smash scene. They signed Mang0. He was a huge part of their marketing efforts. He was, the rock of Cloud9 in terms of pro player sponsorships and streamer sponsorships. And it took a lot for them to drop him. And what happened was Ludwig, who is a major internet personality, he comes from...
And part owner of Shopify Rebellion, I believe. And
part owner of Shopify Rebellion. And also he bought, if you guys are aware, the production company Beyond the Summit when it folded. Mm-hmm. He has been a major player, not only in overall streaming, but also because he is passionate about fighting games and Smash Brothers. He's hosted his own tournaments and a variety of titles. And what he decided to do was to have a content creator event based in Mario Kart called the Beerio Kart World Cup, where he and a bunch of other streamers and personalities got together and had a drunk Mario Kart competition. And this is where Mang0, who I would say very publicly and obviously battled with control issues over alcohol. I mean, not the first time he has been publicly extremely intoxicated, but this is the first time he did something that would be, I think, considered inappropriate on a public level, which is that he got very drunk on this stream by Ludwig and then proceeded to kind of make sexual innuendo.
It was there was some like dry humping shit going on too. I saw the clips.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was
like I can't downplay
inappropriate sexual behavior.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is that. Like you
a lot of air humping.
Yeah, like you know.
At one point, he was humping against Extra Emily with the cardboard too. So it's like you could even argue an element of sexual assault. But
well, there's also the other part that also is mildly disturbing, even though this might have made it seem not as bad to people on stream. It's because he knows some of these people. There's even the awkward thing of like, if this was a stranger that came up, he'd be like, get this guy the fuck away with these. Yeah. But there was even the thing of like, they might have felt pressured into going, I don't want to seem like I'm a shrew or something, or this is all silly old mango. There was even that sort of a vibe to it.
Yeah, and look, this is like one of these things where it's like, you know, when we talk about how we police our own spaces, like, if you see a dude doing that, like let's be clear, everybody in that room knows each other on some like level. Again, even if it's like just some fake stream of friendship bullshit, because like almost none of these people really like each other. It's just like little clout hookups, little collabs, right? They're always thinking about, you know, their next move. It's like the streamer world is disgusting. No one actually cares about anyone, and they will use a friendship for content, and then if that's no longer effective, they'll just fake a grievance and use the conflict for content. That's how we've ended up with like the front page of live stream fail, not a fail to be found, and it's just the same 5 streamers talking about each other in an endless circle of hatred that could just end tomorrow if you just ignored each other and made actual content. So I want to say, everybody in that room that's just watching him do that ain't saying shit, like, that's on you, man. That's 100% on you. Like, if you see a woman that you know, profess to be friends with, getting like air humped by some fucking drunk guy, and you're like, and you're not gonna say shit.
Also, if it's your event and it's going on there, you shut it down. Just go straight in there and tell them get the fuck out. Stop doing it.
As we know, I'm not saying there's anything to be sympathetic about with the Mango situation, but if we do want to talk about some of the facts, first of all, enabling alcoholics is like a pretty despicable thing to do.
By the way, explicitly so, Richard.
Yes.
It wasn't just like, oh, we invited him, it's a beer thing and drinking. No. Yeah. On camera, he was doing a thing where, as a live, funny update, they would breathalyze him and go, you're only at, and then say a number.
By the way,
and I've heard the numbers I've heard people quote unofficially that he got to would be like way beyond like drink.
There's a clip of him
0.32.
Yeah, there's a clip of him at
0.34
and 0.34. Yeah, basically what that means is like probably 0.3 or 0.4. That is enough alcohol in your bloodstream where it would be classified as alcohol poisoning. Now, obviously, as a hardened drinker, we all know tolerance
By the way,
are different.
The legal limit in America is 0.08. So we're talking about 4 times the legal limit to drive. 4 times.
I'm going to say a few things on this topic, right? That like maybe this gets me in trouble or puts me in a weird kind of like quantum state where I'm not being morally or ethically consistent. Richard Lewis, the adult, says probably creating an event around about deliberately drinking to excess is irresponsible and somewhat reckless. However, Richard Lewis, the dude that loves to fucking party, I think that shit's hilarious. So so I don't know how those two reconcile or exist. There are within you 2 wolves, I guess. Right?
Well, the premise of it is funny because it's like drunk driving, like haha, I'm drinking and playing Mario Kart. But it's like the level that they're drinking to, the fact that he's celebrating these dangerous BAC levels. And what I thought was even crazier was the fact that...
He's telling him to drink more. He's telling him you got to get higher.
His own dad passed away from alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
And he's sitting here asking people at the event, what is a dangerous BAC level? My brother, you made this event that's about excessively drinking and you don't know what the dangerous limit for drinking is?
Probably a safety concern.
By the way, 0.3 can lead to death. to people, coma or death.
0.3,
like
0.4,
it is crazy.
I'll also just say this. This also, to me, was a wide open fucking lawsuit as well. I'm amazed nothing was even threatened in that regard. He's on camera doing it.
I just want to add something, though, like, as well, just quickly, Monty, if you'll indulge me a moment. Right, like, there is something... First of all, when you run an event like this, like, you surely must handpick the people and do some form of vetting. And probably, Mang0's popular. Yeah, Mang0's a cool dude. Yeah, I've got a personal relationship with him. Is an event where you have to drink to excess for part of the content when everybody in the scene, and he's been quite vocal about it in the past, everyone knows he has a substance abuse problem. You know what I mean? It's like, well, what the... I'm going to invite Tony Montana to a fucking event where we all do core.
He got a ban years ago for drinking in excess to celebrate on a stream. It was like a subathon thing, and then he like blacked out on the floor or like fell down. And then he said it was a joke. Like he didn't really do that.
So it was known publicly. I can just tell my own personal stories because I worked with Mang0 when I was working with Cloud9. I made content with him. Ludwig is friends with Mang0 and has worked on him with multiple events. In my very limited experience of being around Mang0, it was clear to me he had a substance abuse problem because that's the only thing he did around me, and it was a lot, you know? Yeah. And it wasn't that he was inappropriate to me. I had nice conversations with him. I believe he kept it under control like a lot of the time in terms of his behavior. But there is no way that anybody who had had a drink with this guy, I think, could have not believed that he lacked a substance abuse problem. It was insanely clear.
Let me also give you, this is such a fucking insane reference. Only Duncan probably in the world will even remember this, right? But like, there is something really unethical about what happened here. And the only thing I can think of that I've seen that is similarly unethical and reprehensible was, there used to be a late night talk show on Channel 4, which was our edgy, fucking whatever, millennial with Gen X doomerism comedy channel that shows all of that shit. And he used to have a talk show called The Word. And it was this right-on, hip, it used to have all the cool bands, Rage Against the Machine, and they could sing, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, like, not censored, like when they went on the BBC, right? Like, and so that was the premise of the show. And they brought on, to the show, Oliver Reed. Oliver Reed, fantastic actor. You know him from Gladiator.
Guy from Gladiator.
Yeah, there is. Everyone knows him from
Died drinking.
Yeah, right. Who did die from a combination of drinking and then arm wrestling a Latvian sailor for a bet.
Which again, Richard, I should say, I don't want you to do that, but it does sound good.
Yeah, exactly. See what I mean? Yeah.
Look, I was just going to say, was it degenerate? Yes. Yeah. Did he have huge alcoholism issues? Did he die in a based way? Yes.
He was suffering. Yes. Obviously, he was a long time suffering alcoholic, and he had been on public TV and debased himself many times while drunk. And so what The Word did is they invited him onto the show, and they brought him into his dressing room, and they had left in the dressing room about 6 bottles of spirits, which kills you even if you're Oliver Reed, by the way. Sure. And they put a secret camera in there, and they were like literally going, here's an update of like Oliver Reed, and he's got his shirt open and his tie all skew whip, and he's like punching the air, fucking wasted out of his mind, and everyone's going, this is so funny. And then they brought him out for the interview. He could barely speak, and he goes, you do know, Ollie, we were filming you through a secret camera the whole time. And he just goes, gosh, that was a fucking surprise. And then he went up and sang Wild Thing very badly with all the words wrong. I've never seen anything like it on television standards ever since, until Ludwig did this to Mang0. Like, it is actually mental.
The whole event, he's like joking about getting people to throw up, which is like, okay, I get that. I mean, if that's what you're going for.
No one's ever choked on their own vomit, of course, from drinking. That never happens, famously.
And he's like tracking their BAC the whole time. You'd think he'd have someone for safety and practices for his broadcast, just
How
watching.
about you track the BAC so you know when to cut people off? You don't
exactly.
You don't get a 0.34 and go, we got to get, that's rookie numbers. We got to pump that up.
After like 4 hours of the stream, he said the producer cut him off from drinking, but that's after he already acknowledged that he drank like 8 beers before getting there, and then that he reached like a 0.34. So it's like too little, too late.
By the way, another thing about this as well is, one, I can't even believe this was happening on fucking Twitch.tv. I think of some of the things people have been banned for on Twitch, even temporarily, that doesn't get you a ban. And then secondly, if people don't know, this is going to be really relevant to that hack shit. What do you think the response of Ludwig was? Was it, my bad, guys, here's the role I played with it? No. His response, if you think where this is familiar, was to ban fucking Mang0. He just came out, he himself piled on, and then he banned Mang0 from his own event while never acknowledging. In fact, he not only didn't acknowledge it, I believe he even said something in his video, like he went out of his way to say he wasn't sorry for this. Something mental. Like, the Ludwig guy is absolutely wilding. This guy's high on his own.
He said, I don't feel guilty at all because it's his own fault because he's a grown man. That's what he said, pretty much.
And like I said, there is a 0% chance, unless Ludwig is the most naive person alive, that you would not know that Mang0 has substance abuse problems, because I have much more limited personal experience with Mang0, and I knew, right?
Yeah,
and it's not like it wasn't subtle, by the way. Mang0 was not one of those guys who was like walking off to the bathroom and like taking a shot from a flask that's in his pocket. It was very obvious. Very obvious.
Yeah. Ludwig said that Mang0 told him to his face multiple times, I'm not an alcoholic, and Ludwig took that at face value. It's like, I have to believe that this guy is the most gullible person ever. No, because everyone knew he was an alcoholic.
What's the first thing alcoholics say? I've got it under control. I don't have a problem. Why did he say the first step to recovery is acknowledging you have a problem? It's wild. And look, I'll say this as well. Apart from the fact that the event was dangerous, it was dangerous for a bunch of reasons. Like, first of all, you have to acknowledge that tacitly on some level, you endangered their women, like, the women that attended your event. If you're not going to police people's behavior in that space while wildly drinking, that's dangerous. You've endangered Mang0's life by joking and encouraging him to drink more and more in a public setting. Then you're going to penalize him for the aftermath of that. The aftermath you didn't police, didn't prevent, could have stopped at any time, mate, you're getting out of control. I'm sorry, this has gone too far. Then when you're called out for it publicly by the community, which surprised me, because
including Asmund Gold, which shout out to him. He actually was one of the people who made wasn't he the one who called him out as well?
Yeah,
I believe he did.
Most of the people in communities, when there's ever anything like this, what they'll do is they will absolve the biggest name. They will absolve the most popular person in this sort of cascading chain of failure. And I was thinking, well, Ludwig, just think about it. He's framed as he's one of the good clean cut streamers, right? He's doing the streaming awards. He has all these endorsements, and so obviously people, and remember when he interviewed the CEO of YouTube on his podcast, I think it was with him, very high up level, clean cut guy, compared to some absolute shitbag streamers. He's a saint, isn't he? So it's look, man, everyone is telling you fucked up on this, and you can't accept that you absolutely fucked up on this. 100%, you fucked up, you endangered people, and ultimately, if I'm Mang0, you have to take responsibility for your own behavior. Of course you do. But a part of me is thinking, man, why couldn't he have been a good friend to me in that moment? Why couldn't you have just been a good friend, bro?
He called everyone drama frogs that was talking about it and acting like he was the only one that truly cared about Mang0. If you cared about your friend, you would stop him from embarrassing himself in front of millions of people. Mang0 was suicidal after this happened, and you don't feel like you could have mitigated that in any way.
Mang0 also has a family and a kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we get.
I don't think Mang0
secondary harms, right?
Yeah. Right, but Mang0, I don't I think he was out of control that day, but like I said, I don't want to make it his actions equivalent to these other incidents that have happened, because in general, my opinion of Mang0 is that he has been pretty kept to himself and is relatively well-meaning. You know what I mean? He hasn't been involved in a series of scandals.
I don't think he's a bad dude. He's a regular dude with a fucking drinking problem. And I think it's important we actually say on air what we said before we came on air. And that is that anyone that tells you that how you behave drunk is just some sort of extension of who you are as a person is a fucking liar and a moron, and they are not fit to talk about these topics. There are people that are horrified by their behavior when they are drunk. There are people who literally cannot believe they've behaved a certain way until you
including Mang0, who apologized afterwards, by the way. He apologized for his behavior.
I never
saw that. Yeah. When I've been around Mang0, he's been fun, he's been personable, he's been really easy to work with, no issues.
Yeah, and I also think in this instance, this is, again, it's antithetical to the hacks problem, because I think Mang0 he's been appropriately dealt with. Yeah, I think this is proportionate. in the sense that, look, I think it's the relationship with Cloud9 was untenable. If one of your biggest named guys that's been there for over a decade is involved in something like that, you got to sever ties. That's just how that goes, right? Because you when you're in an esports org, an MGO, you're not just representing the Cloud9 brand. The Cloud9 brand isn't the problem. It's all the other brands that fund Cloud9 that you are essentially an ambassador for de facto. And so I have no doubt Cloud9 got a bunch of calls from their sponsors saying, what are you doing with this? We're going to pull out. This is how this works. And so obviously that relationship was untenable. The ban from tournaments, yeah, probably. What else?
A year.
Yeah,
a year ban.
A year ban. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they didn't make a statement. They didn't drop a statement like with Hacks, where Hacks had like four different statements dropped. But
I'm glad they haven't done more to Mang0, but to put this in comparison, basically Mang0 on stream proved that he was somewhat of a danger to other attendees at events, right? Mm-hmm. Hacks was banned forever for making a video and then apologizing for it.
Yeah.
Was Hacks a danger to people?
What about
not as far as we can tell?
They've actually all went out of their way to, in the statement, say he wasn't an actual danger to anyone. So that's what makes it even more insane.
What about Ludwig, though, if we're talking about danger? This is his idea. His idea led to all of this. His behavior.
By the way, he's also been shown to be someone who, quite frankly, it seems like they have very, very loose morals that just change based on the day. If you don't know, guys, literally within the last couple of years, as initially trash talk, but then even actually trying to insult people. He has insulted other orgs for like taking oil money and clinging to Saudi money. By the way, his own org that he bought into, Shopify Rebellion, competes in the EWC. So the guy's a complete fraud as usual. I think he even years ago, I haven't been able to find a mirror of this. I think he once made a video where years ago he said he was approached by some Saudi sponsors and he turned it down for like human rights reasons or something. This is all these people where the words out their mouth just mean nothing. They're just fucking empty ciphers, saying whatever the fans want to hear, it seems
when
like.
he was advocating for Twitch to ban gambling at the same time like Pokemon and all of them were doing it, he said that he didn't know if he wouldn't take he's also a gambling addict, by the way. He said he didn't know if he wouldn't take a gambling sponsorship because it was against his morals or if because he was scared that he would alienate his audience and he wants people to like him. So he literally
that's an intrusive thought.
He literally said that out loud and it's like, dude,
holy shit.
Well, you don't know if you have like just a fucking moral standard where that's not something you support because you're just gonna do whatever your audience.
That's what I mean about streamers, though, bro. Like on some level, they're all fucking sociopaths. Like, I think your brain instantly changes once you go like north of 1 million followers. I think you can walk up to 1 million and stay a normal, unchanged person. Once you go through the lens of 1 million, everything's content. Everything's pandering. Everything is, like lack of accountability. Like totally, like what you get embroiled in a scandal, you point out why it wasn't bad and how actually you're the victim in all of this. Like endlessly, constantly. If somebody criticizes you, they also have 1 million. You got to come out and do the pushback and the pities and the truth nukes and all. The world they operate in is so fucking demented that like it's not a surprise that like somebody like Ludwig is probably one of the more normal ones out there, which is insane to think about. I mean, for me, I'm just like astounded because it really does show you where how the guidelines on Twitch, which by the way, this is now going, the American government is sticking the fingers in this fucking spicy gumbo. Their lack of enforcement for big names is actually getting ridiculous now to the point
they're getting called into Congress, the CEOs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, look, if I said 1 sub, 1 shot on my personal stream and people were subbing and I was getting wasted, my stream would be permanently banned for reasons of self-harm. That's what would happen. That's what happened multiple times. If I invite a bunch of friends around to my house and essentially do the same premise, let's all get dangerously drunk, and I broadcast it, and everyone's encouraging people to get dangerously drunk, well, that's fine.
And your friends are famous.
Yeah, that's fine, because a big streamer's doing it, and, it's probably for charity or something, right? So, like,
the violation happened on his broadcast. I don't understand why only Mang0 was banned when he facilitated that entire interaction. Like,
well, you do know why, though. That's
well, yeah.
We all say that reflexively.
And they always claim everyone streamer knows the nightmare fuel of how Twitch normally treats it is you're responsible for your stream. So even if you accidentally show something else that then, like the joke in the modern days, you can't even show a fucking Twitter timeline because you might have people being assassinated in the fucking Twitter timeline. You get banned for that as if you'd chosen to publish that. I noticed magically he skated by almost like he's a massive, well-loved figure on Twitch. And,
not even a one day. It was crazy. I was...
Yeah.
Yep.
I was at Disneyland when it happened too.
Not even the performative, hey, Ludwig, have Sunday off.
Yeah.
Not even that. I mean, it's like, look, I think, put it this way. What is more harmful, right? This or Forsen showing a giant horse cock? Like, right? I'm not saying I want to see a giant horse cock. Don't get me wrong. But like,
right.
If he gets tricked into showing that on stream by a GIF, like, I can't even remember how long he got banned for that. It's dude, like, it's a horse's dick. Like, welcome to the internet, bro. Like,
there's way more real harm associated with Ludwig, and the fact that on his on the broadcast, the things that he was saying about alcohol consumption, the ideas that he was promoting, he actually lied about it was a dark comedy called, what was it? It was a Danish film about drinking. I forgot the name. It was in my video.
Is it the one with like Mads Mikkelsen in?
Yeah,
probably.
I think it's. Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
It's called Another Round.
Another round, yes, another round. So he was pushing that as if it was like a real study or like a documentary, and he told Valkyrie, he was all like, "Have you seen Another Round? It's a film that shows you that a little bit of alcohol can make your life better."
It's Ludwig.
And it's like, no, that was Ludwig. He said that.
What I don't get about this is, if it's true that your own father died because of that, is that really the angle you're going to keep mining?
Not only is it a pseudo theory from a disgraced psychiatrist,
it's like movie.
It's a fictional movie. It's like, and you're pushing that to, there were 60,000 people watching when he said that, and then the millions of people that watch the VOD, and it's like, you're endangering your whole audience by telling them to microdose a substance. That's incredibly irresponsible.
Yeah.
No, nothing happens from that.
Yeah, that whole thing. It's like, I think a lot of people sort of downplayed it, but it's like, it really, really is like fucking so wildly reckless that there should have been some consequences for that. I think this is the common thread in all of the stuff about Smash. Like, there's never any consequences, it seems. There just never is. Like, no one ever gets
just get away with it.
Yeah, no one ever gets
He's cool enough to get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're big enough, they let you do it, right? Yeah, it's crazy shit, man. And it's like...
It's the Trump effect. Ludwig is literally Donald Trump.
Oh, that's going to be the most controversial statement of this episode, bro. We'll put that at the start.
Hello, live stream fails. Watch the rest of the episode, please.
Right-wing grifter calls Ludwig Trump. Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
How would you square that one? Those two statements together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen.
It was a joke. It was a joke, chat. It was a joke.
They'll do it. I mean, look, just to start wrapping up, because it's been a long episode, I guess. Again, about like it's probably
a lot to cover, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, this is what I want to ask technicals about. It's like there's so much going on in the Smash scene. Do you have any insight into why it is so uniquely fucked up?
Well, it's also because of the game, right? Like, there's a lot of children's IPs, lovable childhood characters that attract not only adults that have grown up with it, but the kids, because it's like a shiny toy. They've seen these things too. So you're mixing these two different worlds, and there is no social boundary, and no one to really enforce that social boundary either. So it just builds until the melting point, until we see it on our timeline. Another story of something happening on Discord, meeting up with substance abuse, and it's unfortunate. And I think the only way to fix that is a centralizing power that's going to hold these people to account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that you're doing it, man, because like obviously, basically what's happened to us essentially is the esports that we were covering about. Like in 2016, I made a video, shit got changed. In 2018, I made a video, shit got changed. In 2020, everyone was fucking bogged down with COVID, so nobody gave a fuck about anything except how many times you had to wash your hands saying A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or whatever the fuck it was, right? You fast forward now to 21, 22, it just fell. It just went like that. Saudis just took over everything. Nothing matters anymore. Ethics and standards don't matter anymore. All that matters is money. Everything we said before, we didn't mean it. Everything we say now, we do. Here's MBS on stage with an esports organization at a tournament that's been structured that only they can possibly win it, barring some sort of insane miracle. All hail Saudi Arabia. And it's just like, I hope what Smash would at least realize and try and accept and understand is that sometimes having the money come isn't the good thing. Like, yeah, you need money to have tournaments, but it's like the type of money you take and the amount of money you take is scene defining. And ultimately right now, like, people that are holding you all to a critical eye and holding you accountable, cherish that, because eventually you get to a stage where it's just a totally corrupted, rotten, fake, empty experience, like a total facsimile of what esports used to be. And that's what we're living through in our scenes, respectively. So I hope it doesn't happen to Smash, but man, get your fucking ducks in a row. Like, your house is so far from being in order, it actually blows my mind. And I've seen it all, and I've never seen anything as fucked up as what goes on in Smash.
Right. Just a couple days ago, we had another story of, child sexual exploitation material being spread around. So got my hands full.
Yeah, I mean, listen, keep doing what you do, brother. I think you've been a fantastic guest tonight. I hope we get you on again sometime, no doubt, when the next fucking set of chuckleheads are attacking you for simply pointing out facts.
You never want to be a guest on this show because it means something bad has happened.
Yeah.
I'd love to come back. I'd love to come back at some point if it's necessary, because it's always nice to talk to other people who are dealing with the same kind of really just degenerate stuff that goes on in these spaces. But someone's got to talk about it, and if we got to be those grifters,
Yeah, I would love people to explain what the grift is as well, as if you...
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I love that.
By the way, two things. One, it's getting really boring, teenagers who've heard the word grift just saying everything.
They don't know what the word means, bro.
Like, for example, please explain to me how Hax's mother, using his Twitter account to correct lies about him, is grifting in some... How's she making money off that exactly? Anyway, I wanted to just say to you, though, Technicals, the reason also I wanted to have you on this episode is because I actually know, in your case, there's not many people in your scene doing this stuff, mate. It can be isolating.
I'm like the only one.
And one of the hardest feelings, and normal people will not, I'm sorry, be able to relate to this. You all think when you watch a movie, you'd be the guy who stood against the tyranny, and you'd be the one guy who didn't do the Nazi salute in that crowd like that. You all think that because you don't know the power of peer pressure. You don't know what it's like when 100,000, 50,000 people tell you, you're wrong, you're crazy, this is all wrong, you're the abuser, you're the one doing it. And when that happens, you will have moments where, as long as you're a reasonable person, you actually have to think like, fuck, is anything they're saying true? Have I gone too far with it? Should I not have said that? Which, by the way, is the effect they want you to have. They want to push you off the straight and narrow and make you think, well, the consequences if I write about this, though, ooh, don't people like that person? They might not believe me. But I have to say, I think you've done a great job of just staying true, mate. You've stayed to the course and you haven't let people break you. You haven't done the makeup and you haven't conceded and taken shit out of the video. I think you've done an awesome job.
If I didn't grow up playing Call of Duty, I probably would have quit like a long time ago. Like, I don't care when people talk all that mess. It's
as we're fond of saying, if you were forged in the original days of competitive gaming and you heard what people were saying on Xbox Live, there's really no comparison. Like, you're steeled for life against the harsh words.
Yeah, even like the death threats. It's like I said in one of my recent videos, was you need to be pretty. It was in the hacks video actually. I said you have to be pretty specific to elicit some kind of fear. A lot of these people shaking their boots had a different opinion, so you're gonna have to try pretty hard if you want to be scary on the internet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, man. As I said, just thanks so much for being on and making the hacks video, which I think is
thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, I think it's the peak of what you've done, but also as well, check out the video about the crazy fucking ban for the Israeli competitor as well. What a crock of shit that is. I'm astounded. That was another topic we didn't even have time to get into today. So give Technicals a follow. You won't regret it.
Yes, do subscribe to his channel.
If you like what we do, you're going to like what he does, even if you don't understand what the game is. And don't worry, he'll talk you through it all. Why you should care, why you should give a shit, why it matters. So go follow him, please do.
And follow your hosts, guys. What are you doing? You haven't subscribed? You watched this whole thing? That's insane.
Yeah, I know. Well, we used to.
All right, guys. Well, there you go. There's the history of Smash scandals in a short time frame. If you would like more,
Smash scandal.
1% of Smash scandals. Go check out Technical's channel for more in-depth coverage, and we will unfortunately see you next time. Until then, esports till end est.